north from junction 23 at Haydock. On the M6 in Warwickshire, there's a lane closed southbound while someone's broken down between junctions 4 and 3 from the M42 to Coventry, causing delays. On the M32 in Bristol, there's a lane closed northbound for repairs after an accident between junction 1 at Hambrook and the M4, with queues towards there. And in Surrey, the A24 remains closed northbound from the Clarks Green roundabout near Ockley to the Knoll roundabout at Leatherhead, with the A243 closed from there to the M25 after a diesel spill on Tuesday. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Welcome back. Stefan Kyriazis has, as ever, been to the theatre and saw one of the most successful performers of the modern age, one who has made his name in different genres on television and is always a magnetic presence on the stage. About whom are we talking, Stefan?
We're talking about James Cordon at the Old Vic for The Constituent, and it's traverse staging. So audience on either side, and it's a fantastic experience. But also it's been done this time to bring everything in a lot and make it quite intimate, because you just have one simple set. It's just a table, office space. This is a new play by Joe Penhall, and it's addressing very, very current issues of safety, especially for people in public service, doctors, nurses, teachers, and of course, as you know, politicians that are at risk and being attacked. So we have Joe Cox, Sir David Ames, and we have politicians talking about cancelling their surgeries, not wanting to appear in public, teachers being threatened. And James Cordon plays an ex-serviceman who is going through a difficult divorce, dealing with a lot of PTSD, also feeling very much like fathers are overlooked, and he wants to fight for their rights. And an old school friend is a local MP, played by Anna Maxwell Martin. And he goes in to start talking to her, and it starts off quite chummy and jovial, and then it darkens and darkens. He gets quite aggressive and frustrated. She wants to help. She's an absolute idealist. This politician sense of, we don't choose who we work for. You know, we are here by duty to work for everybody in our constituency. It spirals a lot. I have to say, Cordon, sensational. Really? He really is a fantastic actor. Of all of them, he's so natural, and he has the most difficult role where his character is shifting all the time and becomes potentially quite threatening and dangerous, but then there's also a beautiful catharsis at the end.
The People's Channel.
Very good morning to you. It's 9:30 on Thursday, July the 11th, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Nana Akweer and Ben Leo in for Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Now it's coming home, well, hopefully. England beat the Netherlands 2-1. It was sensational, wasn't it? In the Euro semi-final last night, Ollie Watkins clinched the winner in the 90th minute.
Lost for words, really. When you score, there's the emotions that come through your body, but this is just a different feeling. It was slow motion when I was running over to the boys and celebrating.
Yeah. And of course, millions of football fans will have been celebrating all through the night. Next up, it's Spain in the final, can you believe it, on Sunday.
What are their chances? Now, this is absolutely horrendous. The Crossbow horror. A triple murder suspect has been captured after a huge manhunt last night. Charlie Peters has more.
The investigation continues here in Bushey after a successful manhunt in Enfield yesterday following the appalling attack here that took place on Tuesday evening.
And let's go stateside. Is Joe Biden too old to be president? Hollywood star and Democrat fundraiser George Clooney tells Joe Biden to pull out of the race for a second term in the White House.
And, of course, Britain's prison crisis. The Prime Minister said an urgent plan is needed to tackle overcrowding in our prisons. But, well, no surprises, no guarantee yet for an early release for dangerous criminals. So no guarantee yet for an early release. And also, I mean, do you know, I'm worried that this is going to be one of those, I don't know.
Well, really interesting story in the Times this morning. Quotes from ministers, Labour ministers, suggesting that criminals who would previously be getting low custodial sentences, maybe weeks or months, they just won't bother anymore because the prisons are so full. That reminds me of something akin to San Francisco. I went there last year, an absolute crime-ridden hellhole. Is it a slippery slope to something similar?
Yeah, it's very tragic what happened to San Francisco. I went there many years ago. It was a wonderful, wonderful place. Nothing like that now. Almost a green light to convicts and criminals. But let's hope Sir Keir Starmer sorts it out. As ever, send us your thoughts, post your comments, visit gbnews.com/your say. But let's get your latest news with Tamsin.
Nana, Ben, thanks very much and good morning from the GB Newsroom. It's 9:33. Manager Gareth Southgate says he's immensely proud after England qualified for their second European Championship final in successive tournaments. A stunning stoppage-time goal from substitute Ollie Watkins, securing a 2-1 victory in dramatic fashion. The Three Lions will now face Spain on Sunday with the hope of being crowned European champions. A suspect wanted over a Crossbow attack which left 3 women dead has been found and hospitalised. A major police manhunt for 26-year-old Carl Clifford ended when he was found injured near a cemetery in North London. He was wanted in connection with the Crossbow killings of the wife and daughters of BBC racing commentator John Hunt. Carol Hunt was 61, while Hannah and Louise were 28 and 25. Clifford was discovered with injuries in Lavender Hill Cemetery in Enfield and taken to a major trauma centre. Police say no shots were fired by officers and no arrest has yet been made. President Biden has indicated he supports closer defence ties between the UK and Europe. In his first head-to-head meeting with the Prime Minister at the White House, Joe Biden told Sir Keir Starmer he sees the UK as the cornerstone of the transatlantic alliance. The Prime Minister described the visit as an opportunity to recommit to NATO and the special relationship. Sir Keir has said he wants a new UK-EU security pact while also working closer on defence with key allies. Household water bills are set to rise by an average of £19 a year in England and Wales over the next 5 years. Regulator Ofwat says the increase is a third less than the amount requested by water companies. There are also significant variations in price changes between firms, with Southern Water customers facing a £183 increase, whilst Yorkshire Water customers will see bills go up by £107. Well, those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tamsin Roberts. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
So good morning to you. Hello, welcome to Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom on GB News with me, Nana Akwe, and Ben Leo.
Good morning to you, and what a morning it is.
Oh, my goodness.
The morning after the night before. Britain is buoyed, or England's buoyed at least. Don't know about the Scots and the Welsh. But look, it was a sensational night because the Three Lions roared to victory after that dramatic winner by substitute Ollie Watkins to give us a 2-1 victory over the Netherlands in the semi-finals.
And, of course, millions of fans have been celebrating. Let's hear what some of them have had to say.
No, I'm absolutely gobsmacked because I thought we'd lose tonight. And I haven't even cried yet. I'll leave that till I get home.
We've got pints, we've got the fans. It's coming home, baby. It's coming home. Get in there.
Absolutely amazing. I wasn't sure England would do it, but they've done it. I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
He's happy, isn't he?
He'll watch that back and feel embarrassed.
We're all
Actually, I don't think he will.
England have now reached their first final on foreign soil, with only Spain left standing in their way this Sunday. And across the pond, Biden, Joe Biden, of course, the US president, he's also celebrated England's victory.
Really?
Soccer, I heard. Good news. Good news is great. I tell you what, that's all because of the Prime Minister.
Well lost the game onto the Labour government.
Is football coming home, Prime Minister?
It looks like it.
And just moments ago, psychic Walter Orangutan predicted the winner of the Euro final in Dortmund. Let's take a look at who he chooses.
Go right. Oh, no. So he's chosen the Spanish, it seems.
He's an orangutan, by the way, not orangutan.
But he is... does this matter? I know we had the octopus a couple of years back.
I don't think so.
The octopus was wrong.
I think he just likes the bright colours and the yellow. It's like a bee going towards a yellow colour, do you know what I mean? If we put maybe the red, white and blue flag there, then maybe he would have gone for that. But let's cross live to Germany and join our reporter, Jack Carson. Jack, I presume it's been a very, very festive evening, and now you've moved on to the next location because we're in the final.
Well, yeah, we're in Bochum at the moment this morning, where we've been staying to cover this semi-final. We're just outside Dortmund, not too far away. I mean, all yesterday we were talking about it. I mean, there was over 100,000 Dutch fans from the Netherlands that had come over, because of course Dortmund's only about an hour away from the border there. So over 100,000 had come into the city. It was just noise from the Dutch all day, flares, orange everywhere, and England were kind of just like sectioned off into these little portions of the city, vastly and greatly outnumbered. But of course that really didn't matter when it came to the performance at the end of the day, did it? Because we won when it mattered on the pitch, and within 90 minutes in the knockouts, which seems like it's been an age to try and do that. Of course, Ollie Watkins making the difference. And today, okay, is the 11th of July. It is 3 years ago today that England lost the Euro final back in 2021. So maybe a bit of redemption that we've reached another one. Two goes on the bounce to go to Berlin on Sunday. And of course, I mean, in Dortmund yesterday, those thousands of Dutch fans up, of course, went mental when Xavi Simons put them ahead, but it was all quiet really from then on, because England probably had their best performance after they'd gone 1-0 down. Looked really positive on the pitch, attacking. Bukayo Saka, of course, always looking a threat. Phil Foden as well, having to have a shot cleared off the line. So England looked probably the best that they've looked, and we were actually trying to watch the game, funny enough, because there were so many Dutch fans all crowding around all of the TVs. We ended up watching the game on a TV through the window of a pizza takeaway shop. That's the kind of level we've had to go to watch the semi-final yesterday. And of course there was about 5 or 10 England fans gathered around, and then hundreds more Dutch fans. So they were maybe a little bit unhappy when we went a little bit crazy when Ollie Watkins scored, as it quite literally hit 90 minutes. I mean, 10 years ago, Ollie Watkins was playing for Western-super-Mare in the Conference South on loan from Exeter City, and a decade later he's just scored the winner in a semi-final of the Euros to send England to Berlin. I mean, he was absolutely, you know, in hysterics and emotional after the game, as you can imagine, talking about how when he scored that goal and running over to the players, you know, it was almost like he was in slow motion. So he knows, you know, he could feel just how much that meant to the team. You saw on the face of Gareth Southgate, and of course we know Spain are going to be really tough in that final. You know, Lamine Yamal, you know, the 16-year-old who's going to be 17 the day before the final on Sunday. I mean, he's been probably one of the players of the tournament for his age, for how good he's been. So he is going to be a test. Spain will be a test. But of course, England are going to have thousands of fans cheering them on in the capital of Germany.
OK, Jack, top work out there, my friend. Can I, if you're still on the line, set a challenge to you that if England win on Sunday, he returns for a report wearing some German lederhosen. Is that OK with you, Jack?
I don't think so. I don't think that's OK with him.
Go on then, deal.
Good lad.
No, he's actually done it. Well, I'm sure everyone will be excited to see that one. But let's return to the psychic Walter the orangutan. We've got some VAR controversy as well on his prediction. So here he is. He's going back to the actual site. And now he's chosen the England flag. So it's an orangutan who has a choice of 2 flags, and he picked England the second time, so they're the comeback kings.
So after initially picking Spain, the ape has gone back. After a video review, he's now picked England. The right decision, my animal friend.
Maybe that means it's penalties.
Possibly. Possibly. Right, broadcaster Paul Coit is here with us, maybe with some more in-depth analysis than an orangutan.
Well, he admitted he was orangutan, actually, in the first place, and then decided to go for the England one afterwards. You know, as sad as this is, I've followed Walter the orangutan for quite some time, and I should say that for the semi-final, he actually picked the Netherlands. So they were broadcasting this live from Dortmund Zoo, everybody around the world waiting, but he was wrong last time, so...
Well, Uri Geller did a prediction as well. He actually sent a message of luck to the football team at about the 89th minute.
You know what?
Score, and they scored. He said...
I sat next to Uri Geller at Euro 96. This is a true story. And you know what? It's all coming to pass. This was for England-Spain. This is absolutely true. So last we played England-Spain, Euro 96. It went to penalties. Uri Geller was sat right in front of me. So as it went to penalties, everybody was very nervous. Anyway, Uri stands up and he looks around and he goes, "Now listen, everybody, I want you all to go. England win. England win." He's trying to get everybody to chant. Nobody does. And a guy sat next to him and he looked around him and he said, "Oi, Geller, if we lose, you're dead." And Yuri sat down quietly, and I never forgot it. It was Euro 96, and thank goodness we won against Spain that day on penalties. There you go, Yuri. So it was probably Yuri that did that as well.
Maybe we should have a chat with him. He's going to be on my show tomorrow, so I'm going to see if he can do a prediction for the Sunday match.
Could you not mention what happened that day? Because I did mention it, and he denied it or not, and I was there. I remember it happening.
Hopefully he remembers.
Yeah. Well, he made the ball move as well, didn't he, according to him, in Euro 96, when Gary McAllister was going to take a penalty for Scotland, and he said because you could see the ball move, he said that was him, as he was flying in a helicopter, I think, around the top of Wembley Stadium that day.
Enough about Uri Geller. I want to hear...
Have we got to talk about the game?
About Ollie Watkins. His story is sensational. Joined Exeter as a 9-year-old, he was rejected. It's been a long, hard road for Ollie, hasn't it?
It has, and the thing is, he's another one of these players, like Harry Kane as well, that has not had this handed to them on a silver spoon. They've had to work. They've had to go to play for different clubs, and some thought, smaller clubs. Western-super-Mare is the story as well. Actually, I think we've got... he talks about the journey that he's taken. We can probably... I think we've got that, where you can hear from Ollie Watkins and sums up what it's like to actually make that move, to go from lower league football to right up to scoring for England in the semi-finals of the Euros.
The goal is, that's my bread and butter, running in behind and causing the defence trouble. I said to Cole that we were both going to go on the pitch and he was going to set me up at half-time, and it happened. I manifested it, and as soon as he turned, I knew to make the move, and you don't get that opportunity very often, so I had to be greedy. I had to take it, and I've just seen it go into the bottom corner. I don't think I've hit a ball that sweet before, obviously in such a special moment as well. I'll be playing in the Euros for England. Obviously you can dream, but I'm a realist. I just take day by day, one step at a time, and I was just focusing on getting back into the first team at Exeter. So I've not thought about that, but I put in a lot of hard work to get to this point. It's not just this season; it's a cumulative, and I've worked hard to get to this point, and I'm going to enjoy every moment.
Get paid for every goal they score. What's the deal?
The deal is, it's the last thing that's on anybody's mind, Nana, apart from you. You want to know what the cash is?
Yeah, well, what do they get?
I know exactly what it is. They get paid £2,000 per game that they play for England, but there's a charity, and everything goes into a charity. So they've raised a fortune for charities, millions over the years. So that's it. They get their fee of $2,000, and then that goes, which is obviously nothing to them. But they would play for their country for nothing.
Well, they're paying for nothing.
They are, but that's what it means. Money is completely inconsequential when it comes to what they're doing at the moment. And we hear from Ollie Watkins, and I mentioned Harry Kane and players like that. You can tell when you meet grounded people. Ollie Watkins is one of those, because he's been through the tough years. It hasn't all been handed to him, and he's deserved everything he's got. And let's not forget that he was on the bench. So I was talking about finishers and starters earlier, which is a rugby thing, which kind of really goes, because it's a squad game now, whereas Harry Kane comes off, Phil Foden comes off, both of them superstars, and then replaced with Ollie Watkins, and then Cole Palmer, great players.
All that was.
And it was, and also, it was a great, but also, let's give, we've spoken about Gareth Southgate, haven't we? Let's be honest. And we've thought a week ago, this is not working out. And is he vindicated? Maybe not yet. Let's see what happens in the Spain game. But he made the right decisions yesterday.
What it is, though, I think what it is about Gareth Southgate is he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And all the players love him.
Correct.
And he loves all of them.
Yeah.
You know? And you can really, really see they've got a nice connection. So it's like they want him to do well and they're all willing each other. I think there's a lot to do with the relationship between him as a manager and all the players and how passionate they are. That is one of the reasons why England constantly put us through the ringer, but usually come through.
Well, we say usually come through. It's as in we look back on what was happening before the Euros, and I think, Ben, I did say to you that I thought we were going to win the Euros. This is when we lost to Iceland. And I said, don't worry, something will give. And even I was wobbling early on and thinking this isn't working. But now that momentum's there, I think there's always a turning point with tournaments, and it happened in 90 with David Platt's goal against Belgium. Then we got to the semi-final, we were knocked out by West Germany then. But with this one, I think it was that penalty shootout because there was the confidence. We saw how good it was, and it was almost a belief. There's a light bulb that's gone on that said, you know, we can do this.
Well, you had the no-look penalty, didn't you?
It was, yeah, the no-look, yeah.
Didn't even look.
I'm not even look. See, that's what I'm like, that was it. And it was that confidence that's done it. And I think we saw the confidence in the start of that game and thinking, you know what, play your normal game.
I've been Southgate's biggest critic the past couple of weeks, but, you know, he made the key substitutions last night. He put 3 at the back, he changed it up, he took it on board. Not my advice, obviously.
It was it, yeah.
I wonder what Gary Lineker's saying now, because Gary Lineker was having a go at it.
Well, no, I think that's unfair as well. I know you love Gary, but Gary did a job as a critic, and he said,
I wonder what he's saying.
He's saying that, you know, this is what they wanted. Every critic wants us to do well, and now we are. Final Sunday, 8 p.m.
Hopefully coming home up.
Let's hope so.
Thank you very much, Paul. We'll have the latest on the Crossbow horror story that has shaken Britain. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
No one wants their child to be a fussy eater. But what is the secret to expanding your child's culinary horizons?
Is there a way to get kids away from the kids' menu, the fish fingers, the chips? Joining us now is the UK's top-selling author of children's cookery books, Annabelle Carmel. Good morning, Annabelle.
Thank you. So lovely to be here.
So, first of all, what's the issue with kids just having the traditional easy meals like fish fingers, you know, chips, beans?
It really depends if they've got preservatives in them, if they're full of salt. So I like to make them myself, and it's really easy. So I make my own chicken glazed nuggets, and super easy to make using proper pieces of chicken. You can cook them in the air fryer now, which is absolutely brilliant, so you need to fry them. And I think that it's really important that children grow up loving good food, because they make their minds up by the age of 5 what they like and what they don't like, and it's quite difficult to change their minds after that. But it's good to know that fussy eating is genetic. It's not to do with your cooking.
Oh,
that's not to say that you can't do something about it. So I've written many, many books, and I have an app with 1,000 recipes on it and a lot of how to make your own junk food, how to make your own isolitas out of fresh fruit.
Yes.
How to make your own pizzas. I make the most amazing homemade pizza. I actually brought you some cookies here.
So these are your books here. So my first cookbook, that's for how old children?
That's from the age of 1.
OK, and you've got a weaning one at the end, the baby one?
Yes, that's my very first book. I lost my first child. It was really sad. She died at the age of 3 months. And my second child was the world's worst eater. And I wrote that book as my legacy to Natasha, never thinking that it would start a whole career.
Oh, bless you.
It sold millions of copies, and it's so popular.
Is it quite pivotal and important that you introduce kids to the weaning stage, or, you know, how important
It's very important, because the processed weaning food in pouches or jars, it's heated, so a lot of the vitamins aren't there anymore, so making your own is so easy and much cheaper.
GB News, the People's Channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations from the beautiful city of Belfast.
And right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. It's 9:52. You're with Ben and Nana on Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News.
Now, the chief suspect in a triple murder in Hertfordshire has been located by police following an extensive manhunt.
The suspect is receiving medical treatments, having been found in a cemetery in Enfield with injuries. No arrests have yet been made, and the investigation remains ongoing.
Well, joining us now, live in Bushy, is reporter Charlie Peters. Charlie, is there anything else that has come to light? What is the latest?
Well, it's a strange, sombre atmosphere here in Bushy. There are floral tributes at the scene of that triple murder from Tuesday evening, and the police investigation does continue this morning. We're expecting an update from Hertfordshire Police later this morning after their successful manhunt yesterday evening, capturing who they believe is the lone suspect in this triple murder from Tuesday, Kyle Clifford, a 26-year-old veteran of the British Army, formerly in the Queen's Dragoon Guards. He was on an escape from the police for almost 24 hours, formerly serving in an armoured cavalry reconnaissance regiment. Well, now here in Bushy, the investigation continues. We expect more forensics teams will arrive here soon, because the police did say at the time that this was a targeted attack, and they also mentioned that it involved a crossbow, but possibly also other weapons. And it's the issue of a crossbow that has sparked further conversations beyond Bushy and Enfield. In Westminster this morning, we heard from the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis, who said that the new government would move at pace to assess whether new legislation is needed to deal with these weapons. Yesterday, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, said that her government would do the same and would carry out those assessments. Now, since 2021, this country has endured a spate of crossbow attacks. There was a situation in Christmas Day of that year when a man attempted to assassinate the Queen after breaking into Windsor Castle. He was later jailed for 9 years, and there were several attacks earlier this year with campaigners calling for more action on those weapons. So we'll see an update potentially from the government on that soon.
Thank you, Charlie. Horrific story. Right, still to come, environmental campaigners are telling the government to prioritise nature. Would that be top of your political agenda, or is it a big fat waste of time? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Aidan has your weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Following the gloomy and wet weather we've seen so far this week, well, it's going to stay largely cloudy today with some showery rain. But for many, it's going to be drier and brighter compared with the last few days. Certainly some brightness coming through for Western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers here, but otherwise largely fine. The remnants of the wet weather we've seen during recent days just clearing northeast Scotland through the morning, and brighter skies for the south, where it's going to be relatively warm, 23 or 22 Celsius. But in between this zone of cloud just sticking about for parts of East and North Wales, North Midlands, Northern England, showers or longer spells of rain at times. Some sharp showers actually later in the day coming through for the Midlands and East Wales. But for Scotland at least, it is cheering up compared with recent weather. The best of the sunshine, the north and the west of Scotland. 15, 16 Celsius, not particularly hot, but nevertheless feeling pleasant enough in the sun out of the breeze. Northern Ireland likewise, 1 or 2 light showers, otherwise largely fine. But we've got these sharp showers across the Midlands into East Wales that one needs to keep an eye on. They could be fairly heavy and hit around the time of the rush hour. In the far south, largely dry and a clear evening to come before this zone of cloud and outbreaks of rain moves up from the continent and just spills into the south coast by the end of the day. That's going to continue overnight. So elsewhere, it's turning drier with some clear spells. It's going to be a fresher night compared with recent nights in the south, but temperatures still at 13 or 14 Celsius at the start of Friday. Friday starts off with a lot of fine weather. Actually, the best of the sunshine this time will be across central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, for example, but we'll see a lot of cloud in the south and outbreaks of rain, particularly towards the southeast, and some sharp showers developing towards the far southwest. Otherwise, for many, it is a drier and brighter day. It's not going to feel particularly warm. Temperatures in the high teens.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M62 in Cheshire is closed westbound north of Warrington from junction 9 at Winwick to 7 at Rainhill Stoops after an accident. There are queues in both directions from junction 6 for the M57, back beyond junction 10 for the M6, and there are northbound queues on the M6 coming up from junction 23 at Haydock, and long delays too on other nearby roads as you divert. Now on the M32 in Bristol, there's a lane closed northbound for repairs after an accident between junction 1 and the M4 with queues back beyond junction 2. On the M25 in Essex, there's a lane closed anti-clockwise where a van's broken down just after junction 26 at Waltham Abbey, causing delays. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks, and in Surrey, the A24 remains closed northbound from Ockley to Leatherhead after a diesel spill on Tuesday. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Summer could be a scorcher with your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. It's totally tax-free, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Farage Nigel Paul, Reform UK, 21,235.
Believe me, folks, this is just the first step of something that is going to stun all of you.
This Monday at 7 p.m, GB News welcomes the return of Nigel Farage, MP, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock, it's Thursday, it's the 11th of July. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Nana Akwe and Ben Leo.
Very good morning to you. It's coming home, hopefully. England beat the Netherlands 2-1 in the Euros semi-final last night. Ollie Watkins, of course, clinching the winner in the 90th minute.
Lost for words, really. When you score, there's emotions that come through your body, but this is just a different feeling. It was slow motion when I was running over to the boys and celebrating.
And of course, millions of the football fans will have been celebrating long into the night. Next up, it's Spain in the final on Sunday. Jack Carson is in Germany.
Well, hundreds of thousands of Dutch fans were in Dortmund trying to watch their team get into the final of the European Championships. But after the final whistle, it was England that was out singing them as they head to Berlin for the Euro final.
And Britain's prison crisis. The Prime Minister said urgent plans are needed to tackle overcrowding in our jails. Olivia Utley has more.
The Labour Party is already sounding very bold on prison reform, but how will its ideas go down with voters?
And is Joe Biden too old to be president? Hollywood star and Democrat fundraiser George Clooney tells Biden to pull out of the race for a second time in the White House.
course, let us know what you think about all of today's stories, not least the football last night. GBnews.com/you'll say. Nana, I have to ask. You are wearing orange.
I knew you were going to
Dutch.
mention it.
Dutch orange. What's going on there?
Commiserations to the Dutch. You lost. I'm rubbing your face in it. No, I just got up this morning. I didn't think about the fact that we were talking football. And also, I think it looks a bit red anyway.
Yeah, you look. There's too much red. I am wearing a red tie today. Nothing to do with Labour.
Red, white, and blue.
FYI,
the flag.
This is all England.
Yeah,
okay?
I can see it.
Big final on Sunday.
Yeah.
Where are you going to watch it? The pub, the boozer?
I'll probably be working. What time's it on?
I think it's 8 p.m. You'll be free.
No, I'm going to go to the local pub.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sink a few shandies. Let us know what you guys are up to this weekend on Sunday, particularly. GBnews.com/your say. Big show coming up, but first, here's your news with Tamsin.
Ben, thanks very much, and good morning from the GB Newsroom. It's 2 minutes past 10. Manager Gareth Southgate says he's immensely proud after England qualified for their second European Championship final in successive tournaments. A stunning stoppage-time goal from substitute Ollie Watkins securing a 2-1 victory in dramatic fashion. The Three Lions will now face Spain on Sunday with the hope of being crowned European champions.
The only reason I did the job when I took it on was to try and bring success to England as a nation and to try and improve English football, and to be able to take the team to a first final overseas. I'm immensely proud of that. But now, of course, we've come here to win. We play the team who've been the best team in the tournament, and we have a day less to prepare, so it's a huge task. But we're still here and we're fighting.
Well, these England fans in Sheffield have been reacting to the victory, telling us they think it's coming home.
I am so excited. To be honest, I didn't really think we had it, but we've got it, we've done it. Last minute again. Come on, England, come on.
It's coming home. It's coming home, definitely coming home. No, I'm absolutely gobsmacked because I thought we'd lose tonight. And I haven't even cried yet.
What about Spain? What do you want? They've got paella and all that. We've got pints, we've got the fans. It's coming home, baby. It's coming home. Get in there.
Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., on the fringes of the NATO summit, President Biden told GB News his thoughts on the England victory during a meeting with Sir Keir Starmer.
Soccer, I heard. Good news. Good news is great. I tell you what, that's all because of the Prime Minister.
Well lost a game onto the Labour government.
Is football coming home, Prime Minister?
It looks like it.
To other news now, and a suspect wanted over a Crossbow attack which left 3 women dead has been found and taken to hospital. A major police manhunt for 26-year-old Carl Clifford ended when he was found injured near a cemetery in North London. The victims, who were the wife and 2 daughters of BBC racing commentator John Hunt, were attacked at their home in Bushey in Hertfordshire. Carol Hunt was 61, while Hannah and Louise were 28 and 25. Clifford was discovered with injuries in Lavender Hill Cemetery in Enfield and taken to a major trauma centre. Police say no shots were fired by officers and no arrest has yet been made. President Biden has indicated he supports closer defence ties between the UK and Europe. In his first head-to-head meeting with the Prime Minister at the White House, Joe Biden told Sir Keir Starmer he sees the UK as the cornerstone of the transatlantic alliance. The Prime Minister described the visit as an opportunity to recommit to NATO and the special relationship. Sir Keir has said he wants a new UK-EU security pact while also working closer on defence with key allies. Household water bills are set to rise by an average of £19 a year in England and Wales over the next 5 years. Regulator Ofwat says the increase is a third less than the amount requested by water companies. There are also significant variations in price changes between firms, with Southern Water customers facing a £183 increase, whilst Yorkshire Water customers will see bills go up by £107. The UK economy grew by 0.4% in May. That's quicker than expected. The latest data from the Office for National Statistics comes as more shoppers returned to high streets and construction work recovered. It came after no growth was recorded in April when damp weather hit consumer spending. May's stronger-than-expected performance puts the economy on track to surpass the Bank of England's projection of 0.5% growth for the second quarter. The Prime Minister says he's shocked at levels of overcrowding in prisons, admitting it's worse than he thought. It comes after his Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, warned there was no quick fix to easing pressure on jail space. The government is believed to be considering freeing more criminals after serving just 40% of their sentence to ease pressure on prison capacity. Sir Keir is expected to authorise the emergency measures this week. Well, those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, I'm Tamsin Roberts. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Tamsin, and good morning to you at home on this glorious day.
Yes, it's going to be hot.
Is it going to be hot?
24, 25.
I was more referring to the football, but that's a bonus as well.
I see. Yes, of course.
Great. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News, live across the United Kingdom with me, Ben Leo, and Nana Akweer. We're in for Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
And we would love to hear your thoughts as well. Send us your views, post your comments. Visit gbnews.com/your say.
One has flown in already, Nana.
Yes, we've got.
Anne. Good morning, Anne. You say...
Morning, Anne.
Shame you don't give the Lionesses the same airtime as the Lions, the men's team. They've gone much further, with hardly a mention. Get yourselves together, GB News.
Do you think?
What do you make of that?
Well, I think that they do get a big mention. If they were, I don't see why they shouldn't get more of a mention. What do you think? I mean, I wasn't here, actually, when they played, but had I been, I would have given them a yeah!
Look, well done to the women for winning their own competitions, but you just cannot compare the men's game to the women's game.
What do you mean?
I mean, you're essentially saying the women are better than the men.
What are you talking about? The women are as good as the men in their field. Why can you not compare the two?
Because it's comparing two different sports. It's not
different sport, it's football.
It's two different standards of sport.
What are you saying?
Elite men's football is far different to elite women's football.
In what way?
Well, for example, the US women's national team, who won the World Cup many, many times, they were the trailblazers for women's football years ago. They played Dallas boys under 15s and they lost 5-2. They were thumped. So I'm just saying, as a spectacle and a competitive competition...
You'd be thrashed.
Who, me and my mates?
Yeah, you'd be thrashed.
Well, no, look, again, the US women's national team played, I think it was Wrexham about a year ago. Wrexham old-timers and veterans, they were thrashed. So...
listen, England girls, listen, ladies, if you are listening to what he's just said... I would tell you now to challenge him in a hodgepodge of his mates, because I think he thinks that he could beat you.
I've not even given it a second thought, but my point being is you can't compare these comments saying, come on, the Lionesses have gone further.
Well, they have.
They're two different competitions and two different sports, quite frankly.
They're not two different sports. They are both football. One played by women, the other played by men.
To a very different standard.
Well, I'm telling you now that if the England women's team went to play you and your mates, you would be thrashed. So why is that a different sport?
I'm not a competitive athlete. How do you think the England women would get on against the men?
Well, the women wouldn't play the men because the men are physically stronger, and we know that.
Why would they
but it doesn't
play
make it a different sport. It's still the same sport.
So why would they play me and my friends?
Well, they play you and your mates because you've just challenged them and said that you think you can beat them. And I don't think you can. I think it'd be most entertaining, don't you? We could all have a laugh at his expense as they whoop his... I won't say that. You're not allowed to say that on air.
I'd like to give it a go. Look, props to Lionesses. You've done amazingly well, and women's football's on the rise. I used to report a bit on women's football
yes, of course.
back in the day, but I hate those comments saying, "What about the Lionesses? They went one further."
But they did.
They did. But...
They did. And your arse is... Oh, I mean, sorry. Apologies for that. Apologies for that. I didn't mean to say that. Yes, apologies if anyone's offended. Right. Should we stick with football?
Yes. Sticking with England, the Three Lions, the men, have roared to victory after a dramatic winner by substitute Ollie Watkins last night to give them a 2-1 win over the Netherlands in the semi-finals.
And millions of fans have been celebrating. Let's hear what some of them had to say.
No, I'm absolutely gobsmacked because I thought we'd lose tonight. And I haven't even cried yet. I'll leave that till I get home.
We've got pints, we've got the fans. It's coming home, baby. It's coming home. Get in there.
Absolutely amazing. I wasn't sure England would do it, but they've done it. I'm very happy.
England!
We're very happy.
Come on!
I think that was all of us last night at about 9-10 o'clock. England have now reached their first final on foreign soil, with only Spain left standing in their way this Sunday. And across the pond, US President Joe Biden also celebrated our victory.
What's soccer the trip? Go for soccer. I heard. Good news. Good news is right. I tell you what, that's all because of the Prime Minister.
Not lost a game under the Labour government.
Is football coming home, Prime Minister?
It looks like it.
Don't think Joe Biden really knows what's going on, do you? But joining us now from Germany, our reporter Jack Carson. Jack, what's the atmosphere like there?
Well, I mean, we're in Bochum this morning and there's been a few England fans leaving the hotel in a very buoyant mood. I can't imagine they've had much sleep after last night's game because, of course, you know, what a performance from England. You know, we were looking for that moment, weren't we? We were looking for that moment where we maybe thought, OK, they've turned up to the tournament now, and yesterday really was it. Yes, the first 7 minutes, we can forget about them when Netherlands went 1-0 up. I mean, in Dortmund, where we were, where there were 100,000 Dutch fans, the place went absolutely crazy. But after that goal, England really looked like they actually wanted to win the game. Driving forward, you know, Foden had a goal cleared, a shot cleared off the line. You know, Harry Kane looked better, more in his natural position, maybe from dropping deep, where he has, of course, had criticism throughout this tournament. So England, you know, really looked better. You know, looked like they'd got it in, got themselves into gear, and actually like they wanted to win the game and get through to the final. You know, Southgate, you know, we've criticised him throughout this tournament, but that is a bit of vindication now, isn't it, for him to be able to get to the final. And, you know, you heard from his press conference, you know, just a few minutes ago, and you know, there are less days to prepare for this final on Sunday. But the one thing that has been rightfully praised for Gareth Southgate is how mentally he's got those players into the right mindset, whether it is for a penalty shootout, of course, it meant we could get through to the semi-finals, whether it was, you know, those times in that pressure when you go 1-0 down. England has showed a lot of character, a lot of resilience, which is something else that Gareth Southgate's picked on throughout this tournament, that they've showed to be able to get this far. Now, in Dortmund, as I was saying, 100,000 Dutch fans were there all day. It was just a sea of orange, flares going off, a fantastic atmosphere. But you'd find these little pockets of England fans around certain pubs that they'd kind of commandeered as their own. It was quite funny because all of the bars with a TV all throughout Dortmund yesterday were just full of different Dutch fans. There was fan zones for 50,000 people in the city as well. So there was just little spots, and all you could do was basically try and peer behind someone's shoulder to try and get a view of the screen. We ended up watching the semi-final on a TV screen that was put in the window of a pizza takeaway shop to try and watch the semi-final. So me and about 10 other England fans, surrounded by Dutch fans, who weren't very happy, let's put it this way, when Ollie Watkins scored, of course, in the last minute of the game. I mean, for him, what a personal achievement for him. A decade ago, he was playing for Western-super-Mare in the Conference South on loan from Exeter City, and a decade later, he's just scored in the last minute of the game to send England to Berlin to the consecutive European Championship final. I mean, it's such a story. It shows the importance, of course, of grassroots football, of being able to grow through the football pyramid and the support of players and the development there, because of how many players in the England squad have come through that, of course. It was a bold decision from Gareth Southgate to take Harry Kane off. You know, whenever do you really take the captain off in a semi-final? But Harry Kane was struggling a little bit with his footies, he said after the game. But hopefully he'll be fit as England head to Berlin on Sunday.
Thank you, Jack. Sterling work, and looking forward to seeing how you get on and how we get on Sunday. We'll be back with you shortly.
Right, but you know, we've had quite a few comments actually coming at you because of what you said about women's game. And it says here that, Nana, give him a slap. If a woman... Oh, not on air, but I'll do it in the break. Nana, give him a slap. If a woman consistently won the 100 metres and gold medal foot race and the men didn't, would you dare say it was a different sport or that they competed at a lower level? Numpty, she called you, a numpty.
Interesting. Someone said, Robert, you said same sport, Ben, but men's football has a bigger following. Women's football is just about taking off, yes. And Ian said, I'm with Ben all the way. Also, it was nice to have a semi-final and final with no female pundits at commentary.
Well, there were actually female pundits commenting on. I saw them, and then somebody was complaining that two women are now speaking with regard to football.
I'm not that fussed about the.
Well, that's just as well, because that would have been bad. Let's see what else we've got.
Just as bad. What, for saying?
It would have been worse, actually. You then dig yourself into a hole that you're not coming out of. Alison said, oh my, the women's team beat all the other women's team, thus being the best in Europe in their competition. To say that the men's game is harder is not an argument, is a non-argument. The men play other men of a high standard as all teams are elite in their field. There you go. Exactly, Ben. What do you say to that?
Well, I'm going to get the last one in for me, and good morning. You say any men's league would destroy a women's team, and Ben is right. Let's stop pretending that men and women are comparable. The Olympics demonstrates the vast differences.
Nobody said that they are comparable as in against each other, but they are not a different game. We are competing. It's like having featherweight boxers fight against featherweight, heavyweight against heavyweight. You wouldn't put heavyweight and featherweight, yet it is still the same sport. Does that make sense to you, Ben?
It does make are doing better than England men because it's a different category. It's like as compared to
in their category they are doing better.
They're doing amazingly well. Yeah,
England the men's game they are. Yeah. They're the best in Europe.
My only point being is
unlike
you just can't criticise the English men's team because
why not?
By saying the women have done it, why can't the men? It's a different sport.
No, but that wasn't the point that was being made. Your point was that it's a different game. It
is.
It's not a different game. Like I said, is boxing a different sport when you got featherweight and heavyweight? It's different strengths.
It's a different standard, completely different standard. But anyway, up next, are the rumours true? Could Reform UK merge with the Tories? I know that would be something of a fantasy for many of our viewers. Not sure what Nigel Farage
I don't think they
has to say about that. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Back in a sec.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Now, it wasn't just us who celebrated the big football match on Saturday. Prince William was in the crowd in Dusseldorf and couldn't help but show his relief when England scored.
And over the weekend, it was also announced that the Prince of Wales is set to star in a new two-part documentary on ITV covering his mission to try and eradicate homelessness.
Well, let's talk about this and much, much more with Angela Levin, royal biographer, who joins us in the studio. I'm glad to hear that this documentary's been made, Angela, because I worried that he made this big announcement about homelessness and I thought, goodness me, here is somebody who could maybe do something about this. And then it's all seemed to have gone quiet.
He's been very busy with it, actually. He's gone all over the country to see different areas and how they have been, and to try and change people's attitude to homelessness, that they're people who need help and want to get back into a normal life. I think it was 2009, he slept out in the street to see for himself what it was like. And he also helped people who are selling the magazines, the big issue. So I think he was actually just covering the basic about what it was like for him and how he can now help other people. He and Catherine are putting £3 million straight away into that, and it's going to
Where does that money come from?
Their own foundation, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not taking it from our tax or anybody else's. He wants to do this so badly because of his mother. You know, she took them to see people who were homeless, and even if he can't do everyone, he can help people be kind and understanding.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations from the beautiful city of Belfast.
And right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's just coming up to 23 minutes after 10 o'clock. This is Britain's Newsroom with me, Nana Akwe and Ben Leo. We are in for Andrew Pearce and Beverly Turner.
Very good morning to you. We're joined by broadcaster and journalist Carol Malone and political commentator Jonathan Liss live in the studio. Good morning to you both. Did you enjoy the footy last night?
Well, I only saw that last goal, Watkins goal. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy that we're through, but I think we're the luckiest team alive to be through, frankly. You know, we had the easiest draws. I don't want to sound like I'm not a patriot, because I really am, and I really want them to win, but I'm realistic. And they've never won the Euros. You know, the last time it was 2020 and they came second, and before that it was 56 years, and they scraped a pitiful third place. So they're going to come up against a fantastic team, Spain, on Sunday, and I think they're going to get smashed. But as usual, the nation has whipped itself up. I was just in the Louvre, and I could hear the telly, and this bloke's going, "It's coming home." And
Carol,
I'm thinking,
why can't we just enjoy our
really
moment?
not
Let's just enjoy it. Oh, Carol, I can't believe. Let's just enjoy the moment. You know what this is? This is the Labour feel-good factor that is just gripping the nation.
Get out!
Everyone's just so
Why
happy
have you had to bring
about
politics? You actually
it was a joke. I've got the best story. Listen, I've got the best story actually, because last night I was at the O2 Arena watching the Killers, like quite close to the front with my friend, and there was this as the final whistle was coming near, you could just hear this murmuring in the crowd, and so after they finished their song, they played it on the massive screen behind them, so you got the whole 20,000 people in the arena watching this, and everyone was just on tenterhooks. And then when the final whistle came, this red and white sort of bunting just kind of exploded, there, and then they went straight into Mr. Brightside. It was like one of the most electric moments of my life. There's the whole 20,000 people just cheering, and then what is basically the national anthem of the country.
So this concert was on during the match?
Yeah, it was on during the match. So you had all these sort of boyfriends being dragged around in their England shirts, just like watching it on their phones.
You mentioned a good point actually about the Labour, the feel-good vibe, because I think it's quite underrated.
It's nothing to do with.
But then, if England win on Sunday,
nothing to do with it.
People will feel, absolutely ecstatic, and no doubt subconsciously
and
think,
give Labour credit.
Exactly.
No one's going to give Labour credit, but there was a sense of something, a change. Like, I think that we've done brilliantly to get to the final. It doesn't matter if we lose. I think that there's generally a sense that things are different, right?
What is fantastic about this country is football fans, actually, because they know what's gone on in years before, but it's all a case of hope over experience, even when the odds are stacked against them, and they still go there, they still cheer them on, and I love them for that, and I'm going to be gutted for them on Sunday night, but I don't expect us to win, not for 1 second.
Carol, what do you think of Ben's comment that he sort of made with regard to women's football and men's football? Can you say it again, Ben? Just so.
What did you say? Were you being naughty?
No, not really. I just said when people say to the detriment and to the criticism of the men's team by saying, "Oh, but the England women have won their own tournament," I say, well, that's fine. And of course, congrats to the women. I fully support their game, but you can't say that as a criticism of the English. The men's team.
It's a different I say that's fine. It's not fine. It was incredible, especially as the women have been held back for years and years and years.
Yeah, exactly.
And the first time they get into the Euros, they win it, and they win it big style. So you can't just say, well, that's fine. It is a criticism. It's to do with attitude. I've heard a lot of the football pundits this time round talking about the spirit in the men's team, saying it's not there. The guts isn't there. The fire isn't there. The fire definitely was there with the women. They had a lot to prove, and they proved it.
Any more to add on that?
No, I'm very happy for the women, and I wish the men the same level of success.
Now, what about?
But not in the Tory leadership campaign. Well,
I was going to ask you about the Tory parties. Everyone's saying, they should merge with reform and this and that. Where do you stand on that, Jonathan Liss?
Well, with my left-wing hat on, I think that if the Tories want to convince themselves that the key to their drubbing last week was not being sufficiently right-wing, then go right ahead. Merge with Reform, become Reform, and those seats in the south and the home counties and the West that went to the Lib Dems and to the Labour Party are never coming back. The Tories now have an impossible coalition because if they go further to the right, then they alienate those seats. Those seats in Surrey, which went, those seats in the southwest that went, the left are never coming back. And it also betrays this lack of understanding, because if people want reform policies, they will go for reform.
Yeah, but have you noticed that the Labour Party have moved, I would say, towards the right? I mean, even some of the things Wes Streeting was saying, had a Tory minister said those things, especially with regard to the health service, they would never have got away with it.
And Labour has a lot of problems, and I'm actually writing a column about this week because Labour has taken its sort of left flank for granted, and it's taken Muslim voters for granted, and those are two big constituents. And so you might have a situation where the Green Party is able to capitalise on those wins, and so Labour is not safe at all. But the Conservatives have a unique problem because they are already in the mud, and I don't see that they have an idea of how they're going to get out of it.
I think Labour's covered their ground.
It is. I think this is a huge problem for the Tories just now. You know, they still don't understand the level of devastation in this country. There are a lot of people who didn't vote for them last week, people like me who did, but knew what was going to happen. Until they understand what they've done, until they understand how they've let people down, they're never going to come back. And they're not going to take any notice of this business about half of the grassroots Conservative voters would back a reform merger, because they mostly hate reform. And so they still don't get that moving to the right is what further to the right is what they need to do. So they're still... Part of the reason they failed is they're fighting like they've been fighting for 2-3 years like cats in a sack. They appoint leaders that the voters have had no say in. Again, they're going to say they're probably going to knock back reform. But I can see this working, and I think they've got to go further down the toilet before they understand how
far down
bad
the
they
drain,
have
Carol?
been.
I think they're going to go all the way through.
I actually agree with you, Carol.
I think you're right, but until they understand about the broken promises they've made, until they understand that they've let us down on services, until they understand that all of this and the fact that we couldn't stand their infighting anymore, they're going nowhere. And I think reform would work, and I think they're going to go begging to reform in the next 12 months.
I mean, I think the Tory brand is toxic. I can't see why reform would want to join it.
You know what I think is amazing? What I can't wait to see. I wanted Nigel Farage to get elected because I want to hear his voice in Parliament. I want to hear him taking on Starmer over his failed policies, which will fail, by the way. And I want to hear people, and his voice is the one that people are going to hear, and he's going to be the one that people gravitate to, because we've never seen him in Parliament here. Anyone who's seen him in the European Parliament, he was magnificent.
That's where...
Carol, he'll probably get one question every 2 months. He's not the leader of the opposition. He's not going to get a question every week.
He'll get questions in.
What about, Carol, the new border commander, who could earn more than the Prime Minister, a new job that... Keir Starmer has sort of set up. 200 grand will be his salary.
This new border command boss is going to be earning more than Mr. Starmer, who was on about 167 grand a year, and this guy's going to be on 200 grand. But I want to know what this new border force is going to do differently from the existing one, which is called the Small Boats Operational Command, which has a boss, a guy called General Capps, a very big staff. It's been tackling the gangs for quite a long time now. And Starmer's made a big deal of his new command, saying this is the thing that's going to change it. No, it isn't. It's going to do exactly the same as what this other one's done. But he's kind of trumpeted this border force and trying to make it a replacement for the Rwanda scheme. And I heard him the other day, and I suspect that's because it's his first week, no one has taken him up on it, but he said, the Rwanda scheme was a gimmick, and it was not a deterrent. That's a lie. That's an outright lie. It was a deterrent.
There's no evidence of that.
Well, can I just...
say it's a lie or not.
I'm going to give you the evidence right now. So the Deputy Prime Minister of Ireland, Michael Martin, said that the 50% increase on migrants crossing the border from England to Ireland was absolutely down to the threat of the Rwanda scheme. The former immigration boss of Border Force said exactly the same thing. So that's the evidence. They are saying, and they're also saying, those same people are saying that this new border force will do nothing different to the one that
If it was a deterrent, then why do we have the biggest number of crossings during the election campaign? There's no evidence that's
You know exactly why that is. You know exactly why that is. It's because the smugglers were telling the people wanting to cross that they had to do it quickly and charging them 10 grand for the privilege to get across before the election.
Final
word to
Rwanda, we don't know whether Rwanda was ever going to be a deterrent. The point is Rwanda was never going to work because it was only ever going to take 500 people a year anyway, and leaving the rest of the
90,000
people
were
in
earmarked
limbo.
to go.
And besides that, it was an inhuman policy.
Why?
Labour said they ditched it, and they ditched it.
All right, well, listen, briefly, what was the inhumane bit about it? You've got about 10 seconds.
Well, sort of deporting people to a country where they had no links whatsoever, where they had, even if they were legitimate refugees being sort of taken to the other end of the world, this sort of neo-colonial idea of sort of dumping people in Africa. It was vile. The whole thing was
in Africa.
That was vile. That was.
Back to this because I think you've got some sort of odd view of what Rwanda is.
No,
and if you're talking about countries that are involved in genocides and things like that, some people may even point to the UK and other countries assisting other countries in wars. But it's time to get your latest headlines with Tamsin Roberts.
Nana, thanks very much. Good morning from the GB Newsroom. It's 10:32. Manager Gareth Southgate says he's immensely proud after England qualified for their second European Championship final in successive tournaments. A stunning stoppage-time goal from substitute Ollie Watkins securing a 2-1 victory in dramatic fashion. The Three Lions will now face Spain on Sunday with the hope of being crowned European champions. A suspect wanted over a Crossbow attack which left 3 women dead has been found and taken to hospital. A major police hunt for 26-year-old Kyle Clifford ended when he was found injured near a cemetery in North London. He was wanted in connection with the Crossbow killings of the wife and daughters of BBC racing commentator John Hunt. Carol Hunt was 61, while Hannah and Louise were 28 and 25. Clifford was discovered with injuries in Lavender Hill Cemetery in Enfield and taken to a major trauma centre. Police say no shots were fired by officers and no arrests has yet been made. President Biden has indicated he supports closer defence ties between the UK and Europe. In his first head-to-head meeting with the Prime Minister at the White House, Joe Biden told Sir Keir Starmer he sees the UK as the cornerstone of the transatlantic alliance. The Prime Minister described the visit as an opportunity to recommit to NATO and the special relationship. Sir Keir has said he wants a new UK-EU security pact, whilst also working closer on defence with key allies. The government is set to launch a warts-and-all independent investigation into the performance of the NHS. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says the report aims to diagnosing the problem so the government can write the prescription. The investigation will be led by former Health Minister Lord Darzi, who's been asked to tell hard truths. Mr Streeting says the review will provide patients, staff and himself with a full and frank assessment. The UK economy grew by 0.4% in May. That's quicker than expected. The latest data from the Office for National Statistics comes as more shoppers returned to high streets and construction work recovered. It came after no growth was recorded in April when damp weather hit consumer spending. May's stronger than expected performance puts the economy on track to surpass the Bank of England's projection of 0.5% growth for the second quarter. Well, those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tamsin. I'll be back in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Tamsin. It is fast approaching 36 minutes after 10 o'clock. Up next, the Prime Minister is under huge pressure to put protecting nature at the top of his agenda. But do you support this? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Following the gloomy and wet weather we've seen so far this week, well, it's going to stay largely cloudy today with some showery rain, but for many it's going to be drier and brighter compared with the last few days. Certainly some brightness coming through for Western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers here, but otherwise largely fine. The remnants of the wet weather we've seen during recent days just clearing northeast Scotland through the morning, and brighter skies for the south, where it's going to be relatively warm, 23 or 22 Celsius. But in between, this zone of cloud just sticking about for parts of East and North Wales, North Midlands, Northern England. showers or longer spells of rain at times. Some sharp showers actually later in the day coming through for the Midlands and East Wales. But for Scotland at least, it is cheering up compared with recent weather. The best of the sunshine, the north and the west of Scotland. 15, 16 Celsius, not particularly hot, but nevertheless feeling pleasant enough in the sun out of the breeze. Northern Ireland likewise, 1 or 2 light showers, otherwise largely fine. But we've got these sharp showers across the Midlands into East Wales that one needs to keep an eye on. They could be fairly heavy and hit around the time of the rush hour. In the far south, largely dry and a clear evening to come before this zone of cloud and outbreaks of rain moves up from the continent and just spills into the south coast by the end of the day. That's going to continue overnight. So elsewhere, it's turning drier with some clear spells. It's going to be a fresher night compared with recent nights in the south, but temperatures still at 13 or 14 Celsius at the start of Friday. Friday starts off with a lot of fine weather. Actually, the best of the sunshine this time will be across central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, for example, but we'll see a lot of cloud in the south and outbreaks of rain, particularly towards the southeast, and some sharp showers developing towards the far southwest. Otherwise, for many, it is a drier and brighter day. It's not going to feel particularly warm. Temperatures in the high teens.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M62 in Cheshire is closed westbound north of Warrington from junction 9 at Winwick to 7 at Rainhill Stoops after an accident. There are queues in both directions from junction 6 for the M57 and back beyond junction 10 for the M6. There are queues too on the northbound M6 towards there from junction 23 at Haydock. Now on the M32 in Bristol, there's a lane closed northbound for repairs after an accident between junction 1 and the M4 with queues back beyond junction 2 as you head out of Bristol. In London, the A310 is closed along Kingston Road in Teddington after an accident causing queues. The M26 in Kent, there are long westbound delays approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in Surrey, the A24 remains closed northbound from the Clark's Green roundabout near Ockley to the Knoll roundabout at Leatherhead after a diesel spill on Tuesday.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Hello, welcome back. It's 10:39. You're with Ben and Nana on Britain's Newsroom on GB News, covering for Bev and Andrew Pearce.
Well, campaigners are urging Sir Keir Starmer and his government to make nature one of their top priorities.
Yes, the National Trust, the WWF, RSPB and other eco-groups have called on the Prime Minister to protect our environment.
Now, the government say that nature underpins everything, and that is why this government is absolutely committed to restoring and protecting it. But how much money should they set aside for it? Well, joining us now is the Director of Climate Media Coalition, Donncha McCarthy. Donncha, this must be music to your ears.
Well, obviously, I'm really pleased that these groups are asking the government to do more because, actually, to be fair, the Labour manifesto was quite weak on nature. I think we also need to understand why there's a problem. In my lifetime, we've lost 70% of global populations of nature. In Britain, it's absolutely disastrous. We're the 7th worst nation on Earth. Out of 240 nations on the planet, England has the 7th worst decimated nature. When my dad was born in 1900, we've lost 95% of the fish in our seas. So there's a real problem there, so we've got to start repairing it.
So, Donncha, that is tragic, of course, but this new Labour government have just undone the ban on onshore wind farms. Wind farms, of course, destroy vast swathes of the countryside. They're harmful to wildlife. So on one hand, you've got eco-campaigners saying, we need to protect nature, and at the same time, with all this climate alarmism, saying, let's stick up some ghastly wind turbines
that kill all the animals.
Well, actually, if there is a small amount of birds are killed by wind turbines, but the vast majority of birds in Britain, something like 56 million birds a year, are killed by cats. So if you put it in proportion, we actually have to deal with nature. So what we need to do, and the real issue, if you care about the economy, we have to think about what are the implications of destroying our nature. So one of the things, like by removing all our peatlands and removing all our forests, that means the water pours off our hills, down into towns and onto the land. That damages farms, and that means we have food inflation.
Yeah, but hold on, Donncha. The Labour Party are talking about obviously ripping up parts of the planning laws to build on more sites all around the country, brownfields and maybe even some of the green belt.
Sure.
They need to accommodate the population. Surely that is normal.
Well, what we need to do, of course, is actually increase the density of the building when we are building. So, for example, in suburban areas, very, very low densities, and we need to change the planning laws to allow increased density. But it's a good point. The green belt, which Labour is proposing to call the grey belt, which is, I think, absolutely disastrous. The green belt is green space for the huge cities around the UK. If we remove the green belt, that means the population in the cities have renewed access to nature, but also a significant amount of our fertile land is in the green belt. Something like a sixth of our fertile land is in the green belt.
We could just stop inviting so many people in and, reduce the need for all this accommodation.
Population is an issue, but we can actually do things very, very simply that actually tackle nature. So repairing some of our forests, a very simple thing viewers can do is two things. One, lobby the government for the climate and nature bill to get that passed. And secondly, they could reduce the amount of meat we eat. Meat is...
come on, Donica.
No, if a plant-based diet uses a third of the land that a meat-based diet is. And it's healthier, and most of the... One extraordinary thing about Britain...
Unrealistic. Listen...
A third of Britons are already doing it.
I'm going to stop you. That's just nonsense, right? OK, it's
What's
all very
nonsense?
well. OK, so it's all very well. You think we're all going to be munching on plants, but the reality is this, right? You are now going to need more of these plants, more space, more land, more soil, more things to actually create these things. So that's not a good idea. No. It's true. And
of course. If I eat more plant-based diet, I'm going to have to grow more plants. However, it takes a third of the area to feed me as it does to feed a meat eater. A meat eater takes 3 times more land than it does to feed me.
But there'll be more people listening.
So that's a really simple thing we can do.
Are you doing this on numbers right now, or are you doing this on population numbers? If we all went and stopped eating meat, then you would need a massive amount of space to...
No, you don't understand.
No, I do understand.
No.
Don't tell me I don't understand.
Well, the figures are wrong.
No, you don't understand.
Why would it take more land to feed a plant-based diet than a cow-based diet?
Because you're feeding an entire population.
Well, I'll send you the facts after the programme to show you that actually the amount of land taken by meat is enormous.
And you're also
but there are other things we can do.
The advantages that these animals bring to the land for being on the land. There are
in
other
balance.
advantages. And also, we are carnivores. So
I didn't say we need to go meat-free.
What about our own health?
I didn't say we need to go meat-free. I said reduce the amount of meat. But there's other things, like, for example, pesticide. European Union has banned neonicotinoids, which kills bees. 1.5 teaspoons kills 1 billion bees.
I agree.
And the Tory government kept allowing them to be sprayed.
I agree with that.
The issue is for a lot of people, and it happened just here in this dialogue between you and Nana, is that the climate alarmism debate gets diluted along with genuine environmental concerns, such as cleaning our waterways, plastics in the water, growing trees. I mean, just by the way, Scotland felled 14 million trees to make way for wind farms. But the problem is, when you have groups like Just Stop Oil, Extinction Rebellion, all these climate alarmists, it just puts the normal average Joe off, because they don't want to... They see what's going on with that, quite wild debate, and then anything genuine... as I said, to do with waterways and so on, is just put on the back burner.
Well, it's you introduced the issue of climate change. I've actually been talking about nature.
We said stop eating meat.
I said because the amount of land. The amount of land that meat takes up is enormous. So if you look at Wales. Wales used to be covered in what we call temperate rainforests, stunning green forests. 99% of them are gone.
But
why?
It's your lot chopping them all down.
No, it's not. 99% of them are gone. Why? 19% of that land went for sheep farming. And we taxpayers fund sheep farming to destroy our hills. What then happens is the water pours down them and floods our land and floods our towns. It's insane. So what we need to do is start replanting the forest, repairing nature. And the amazing thing about it is 50-60% of Reform voters said that they support more renewable energy. The British public support nature.
People do support nature.
In millions.
Absolutely. We all support nature. We all support things like renewable energy. But I'm saying that some of the things that you're saying are totally unrealistic. And I'm saying that actually the outcome will not be the outcome.
So what have I said that's unrealistic? First of all...
Well, you asked me a question. Are you going to answer your own question, or do you want me to answer it?
Sure.
OK, you said that we should have a more plant-based diet. I think that, it needs certain elements, but we shouldn't get rid of meat as well, because people...
Reducing it,
Meat is required. But I'm also... I put to you that things like like pylons, which will enable wind farms to transmit electricity. They are very disruptive to the environment. Why is nobody talking about things like that? That's not...
Because the amount of land a pylon takes is a fraction of the amount of the land that meat takes. But there are... The extraordinary thing about Britain, which I think is really amazing, is that we have huge support for nature across the political divide, whether it's Reform, Tory or Lib Dem or Greens. And one of the fascinating things about the general elections, the Tories turned their back on nature and the voters moved to the Lib Dems and Greens. The Tories lost 70 seats to the Greens and Lib Dems on this issue.
Well, listen, Doug, I've got to say, I do agree in terms of looking after nature. Absolutely with you. The water companies and people like that, they need to be punished, and I think it's time we focused on it. But I think a lot of time people conflate it with climate change.
And also, you just can't bang on about that stuff all while felling trees. You can't sit here and say, you know, we need to grow trees whilst felling 14 million trees for wind turbines.
Exactly, there's a contradiction there, and I think they need to consider that. Donna McCarthy, lovely to talk to you. He's the Director of Climate Media Coalition. Thank you so much.
Right, coming up, find out why the Prime Minister says he's shocked about the state of our prisons. This is Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News, live across the United Kingdom.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, time for the best part of the show, our Greatest Britain, where we share amazing people who do amazing things. And this week, that is Dr. Leo Cheng and Reverend Hilary Cheng.
Well, Dr. Chen regularly serves as a volunteer surgeon aboard the Mercy ships in West Africa and has recently served his 17th mission aboard the ships. He volunteers with his wife, Reverend Hilary Cheng, a Methodist minister in the UK.
Thank you for joining us, and what a privilege. So just briefly explain, what are Mercy ships?
Well, Mercy ship provide world-class surgery on the ship, and the ship then sail to these poorest of the poor country because there's no infrastructure to get road or rail there. And we offer free surgery and also education, training of medical staff, and partner with the local or the host nation to build up their surgical and anaesthetic services.
So how long have you been travelling West Africa? You go on all these different ships, different ports, and you treat the needy and the vulnerable. How long have you both been doing this?
20 years.
20 years?
Just over 20 years.
And you take the time to do this out of your own holiday from work. Why do you do it?
Well, because I'm indebted to the education in this country with all the qualification I get. And NHS is great. I love the NHS because without NHS, we see cases that we see in the low-income country. And I want to make use of my hand to help those people who have no way of helping themselves. Because the tumours, the deformities, not just a physical ailment, but it's being ostracised and die early, commit suicide because they've been ostracised by their family.
When you're on the ship, you are seeing the very worst that the country can offer. I find it a great privilege to work alongside these people.
GB News, the People's Channel.
The 12th, a day to celebrate history, community and family here in Northern Ireland. Join me, Arlene Foster.
And me, Dougie Beattie, as we bring you live coverage of the July 12th celebrations from the beautiful city of Belfast.
And right across the United Kingdom. It's all happening here on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. 10:50. Ben and Nana with you on Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News. Now, Sir Keir Starmer said the prison capacity crisis is much worse than he feared as his government prepares to release tens of thousands of inmates early in a bid to prevent jails becoming full.
Well, what's the incentive, eh? He's ruled out that sexual offenders and child abusers won't be part of this release, which is...
Oh, good.
Thank goodness for that. But he's actually been unable to guarantee that all dangerous criminals would be excluded.
OK, joining us now from our Westminster studios is GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. Good morning, Olivia. I read in the Times this morning as well that there was ministers were mooting scrapping low custodial sentences for criminals as well, weeks and months. They just won't be going to prison.
Yes, exactly. And there's talk of closing women's prisons altogether. Obviously, Keir Starmer is right in that the prison system is in an absolute mess. Prisons are hugely overcrowded. And ever since last October, Alex Chalk, the previous Justice Secretary, has actually been releasing prisoners early in a sort of ad hoc way to avoid overcrowding of the prison systems. But what Keir Starmer is proposing is something very different to what the previous government was doing, whereas they wanted to keep prisoners in for at least 50% of their sentences and sometimes had to break that in order to mitigate the overcrowding problems. Keir Starmer actually plans to reduce custodial prison sentences. He's planning to sort of overthrow the whole model of how prisons work. Firstly, it's going to be releasing prisoners from 40% of their sentences instead of 50%. And there are big questions over whether that will include violent offenders. The Labour Party has said, Shabana Mahmood, the new Justice Secretary, has said that she doesn't want that to include violent offenders. But often it's very difficult to work out the difference between a violent offender and a non-violent offender. For example, someone who's been in prison for possession of drugs might also have been violent while dealing with the police. So it's a cloudy, murky situation. But the difference between Keir Starmer's government and the one that went before it is whereas ministers in the previous Conservative government were split on this issue, someone like Rishi Sunak wanted to see law and order upheld in the more old-fashioned way, wanted to keep prisoners in for as long as possible. There were Justice Secretaries like David Gauke on the left of the party who wanted to see prisoners released early. Under this Labour government, ministers and the Prime Minister basically all agree. They want a softer approach to prison sentences. It'll be really, really interesting to see how this goes down with the public because, of course, the danger for Keir Starmer is that he starts releasing prisoners after just 40% of their sentences and then they reoffend very quickly, which I don't think would go down particularly well with the public.
Well, no, that won't go down well at all. And do we know when he might come to a decision as to what's going to happen with these people? Because he seems to push things into the long grass, and where he needs to be quite a bit more decisive.
He does need to be decisive. I mean, I think that what will happen is that he'll carry on doing what the previous government was doing and releasing prisoners sort of ad hoc, and it'll be a sort of slow descent into his new proposal. So there will be prisoners released within 40% of their sentences. It won't be that many, and then eventually the numbers will start to grow. He's trying to push the urgency of the issue onto the British public. I don't really believe that Keir Starmer, who was Director of Prosecutions, is really shocked by the state of the prison systems. He knows the justice system inside out, but he wants to sort of bring the public on that journey with him so that when the prison sentences do get shorter, the public maybe won't mind it so much.
OK, Olivia Utley in Westminster, thanks very much. Concerning, isn't it? It makes me feel like, San Francisco, where you can get away with shoplifting if it's up to $1,000. Anyway, still to come on the show, is it coming home, the football? It better be. We'll be finding out on Sunday. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News, the People's Channel. Aidan has your weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Following the gloomy and wet weather we've seen so far this week, well, it's going to stay largely cloudy today with some showery rain, but for many it's going to be drier and brighter compared with the last few days. Certainly some brightness coming through for Western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers here, but otherwise largely fine. The remnants of the wet weather we've seen during recent days just clearing northeast Scotland through the morning, and brighter skies for the south, where it's going to be relatively warm, 23 or 22 Celsius. But in between, this zone of cloud just sticking about for parts of East and North Wales, North Midlands, Northern England. showers or longer spells of rain at times. Some sharp showers actually later in the day coming through for the Midlands and East Wales. But for Scotland at least, it is cheering up compared with recent weather. The best of the sunshine, the north and the west of Scotland. 15, 16 Celsius, not particularly hot, but nevertheless feeling pleasant enough in the sun out of the breeze. Northern Ireland likewise, 1 or 2 light showers, otherwise largely fine. But we've got these sharp showers across the Midlands into East Wales that one needs to keep an eye on. They could be fairly heavy and hit around the time of the rush hour. In the far south, largely dry and a clear evening to come before this zone of cloud and outbreaks of rain moves up from the continent and just spills into the south coast by the end of the day. That's going to continue overnight. So elsewhere, it's turning drier with some clear spells. It's going to be a fresher night compared with recent nights in the south, but temperatures still at 13 or 14 Celsius at the start of Friday. Friday starts off with a lot of fine weather. Actually, the best of the sunshine this time will be across central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, for example, but we'll see a lot of cloud in the south and outbreaks of rain, particularly towards the southeast, and some sharp showers developing towards the far southwest. Otherwise, for many, it is a drier and brighter day. It's not going to feel particularly warm. Temperatures in the high teens.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£30,000 in cash has to be won. It's our biggest cash prize so far, and it could be yours. Phil was a winner. Listen to what he says about winning the Great British Giveaway.
Hi, my name's Phil Cox. I just looked at my account and thought, oh my God, yeah, it's true, it's gone into my account. And if I can win it, anybody can win it.
The next big winner could be you, with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Farage Nigel Paul, Reform UK, 21,235.
Believe me, folks, this is just the first step of something that is going to stun all of you.
This Monday at 7 p.m, GB News welcomes the return of Nigel Farage, MP, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have said Storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock, it's Thursday, it's the 11th of July. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with me, Nana Akwe and Ben Leo, in for Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
It's coming home, or is it? Hopefully. England beat the Netherlands last night 2-1 in the Euro semi-finals. Ollie Watkins clinching the winner in the 90th minute.
Lost for words, really. When you score, there's emotions that come through your body, but this is just a different feeling. It was slow motion when I was running over to the boys and celebrating.
And of course...
And of course, millions of football fans would have been celebrating long into the night. Next up, it is Spain in the final on Sunday. Thea Chacumba has more.
Well, we are at the Kirby Estate in East London. You can see all the England fans around here. England are on the brink of winning the European Championships. We'll have the latest here from East London.
And elsewhere, Crossbow horror. A triple murder suspect has been captured after a huge manhunt last night. Our reporter Charlie Peters is at the scene in Bushey and will bring us the latest in the next hour.
Then is Joe Biden too old to be president? Hollywood star and Democrat fundraiser George Clooney tells Biden to pull out of the race for a second term in the White House.
And Prince William believes homelessness can be ended as he marks the anniversary of a project to eradicate the problem later today.
You keep saying about football coming home. What do you think the score's going to be this time? Do you think we're going to win?
I think Spain are favourites, but it's a final, so anything can happen. I'd like to think this time, I think we'll do it. I'm positive.
It's a bit like when I was younger and I used to play tennis. If you play against somebody who's really bad, your game goes down the pan as well. So maybe, hopefully, that'll happen to Spain.
Very true. I grew up playing tennis as well.
Did you find that happen?
Yeah, they're called pushers.
Yeah.
Where all they try and do is get the ball back. They don't try and play technically or any good shots. They just get the ball back, and it frustrates your own game. You get dragged down.
Exactly. So if England can do that to Spain, I don't think it'll be the other way around. Then we're on a win.
Do you speak Spanish? Any Spanish?
Dos cervezas, por favor.
2 beers, please. I can say one line from my school days. No me gusta el español porque el profesor es antipático. If you know what that means, gbnews.com/your say. I'll reveal all just after your news headlines with Tamsin.
Ben, thanks very much. Good morning from the GB Newsroom. It's 2 minutes past 11. Manager Gareth Southgate says his team are ready to make history after reaching the final of Euro 2024. A stunning stoppage-time goal from substitute Ollie Watkins secured a 2-1 victory over the Netherlands in dramatic fashion. The Three Lions will now face Spain on Sunday with the hope of being crowned European champions.
The only reason I did the job when I took it on was to try and bring success to England as a nation and to try and improve English football, and to be able to take the team to a first final overseas, I'm immensely proud of that. But now, of course, we've come here to win. We play the team who've been the best team in the tournament, and we have a day less to prepare, so it's a huge task. But we're still here and we're fighting.
Well, these England fans in Sheffield have been reacting to the victory, telling us they think it's coming home.
I am so excited. To be honest, I didn't really think we had it, but we've got it, we've done it. Last minute again. Come on, England, you know, come on.
It's coming home. It's coming home, definitely coming home. No, I'm absolutely gobsmacked because I thought we'd lose tonight. And I haven't even cried yet.
What about Spain? What do you want? They've got paella and all that. We've got pints, we've got the fans. It's coming home, baby. It's coming home. Get in there.
Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., on the fringes of the NATO summit, President Biden told GB News his thoughts on the England victory during a meeting with Sir Keir Starmer.
Soccer, I heard. Good news. Good news is great. I tell you what, that's all because of the Prime Minister.
Lost the game onto the Labour government.
Is football coming home, Prime Minister?
It looks like it.
To other news now. A suspect wanted over a Crossbow attack which left 3 women dead has been found and taken to hospital. A major police hunt for 26-year-old Kyle Clifford ended when he was found injured near a cemetery in North London. The victims, who were the wife and 2 daughters of BBC racing commentator John Hunt, were attacked at their home in Bushey in Hertfordshire. Carol Hunt was 61, while Hannah and Louise were 28 and 25. Clifford was discovered with injuries in Lavender Hill Cemetery in Enfield and taken to a major trauma centre. Police say no shots were fired by officers and no arrest has yet been made. President Biden has indicated he supports closer defence ties between the UK and Europe. In his first head-to-head meeting with the Prime Minister at the White House, Joe Biden told Sir Keir Starmer he sees the UK as the cornerstone of the transatlantic alliance. The Prime Minister described the visit as an opportunity to recommit to NATO and the special relationship. Sir Keir has said he wants a new UK-EU security pact, whilst also working closer on defence with key allies. The Prime Minister says he's shocked at levels of overcrowding in prisons, admitting it's worse than he thought. It comes after his Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, warned there was no quick fix to easing pressure on prison space. The government is believed to be considering freeing more criminals after serving just 40% of their sentence to ease pressure on prison capacity. Sir Keir is expected to authorise the emergency measures this week. The government is set to launch what it calls a warts-and-all independent investigation into the performance of the NHS. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says the report aims to diagnose the problem so the government can write the prescription. The investigation will be led by former Health Minister Lord Darzi, who's been asked to tell hard truths. Mr Streeting says the review will provide patients, staff and himself with a full and frank assessment. Household water bills are set to rise by an average of £19 a year in England and Wales over the next 5 years. Regulator Ofwat says the increase is a third less than the amount requested by water companies. There are also significant variations in price changes between firms, with Southern Water customers facing a £183 increase, whilst Yorkshire Water customers will see bills go up by £107. The Prince of Wales will say homelessness can be ended when he marks the first anniversary of his Homewards initiative. Prince William will visit the London borough of Lambeth, where 12 months ago he launched the 5-year scheme to eradicate the issue. In his speech, he's expected to say homelessness touches the lives of far too many people in society. It comes as government statistics show homelessness has reached record highs. Those are the latest GB News headlines. I'll be back in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very good morning to you. It's 11:08 here on Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News. We're live across the United Kingdom. I'm Ben Leo. This is Nana Akweer. We're in for Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Now, as if we love hearing your thoughts and what you think, sending your views and comments, post them gbnews.com/your say. Now, earlier we were talking about the football and Ben Leo happened to mention that the women's game is nothing like the men's game. And Drew, I love this one. Drew has messaged saying, same sport, but women don't roll around screaming in agony for a tap. They just get on with it.
Philip, on the prisons, more seriously, Labour mooting, not giving sentences to lower-class criminals and also releasing prisoners early. Philip, you say, what? Closing women's prisons? A good start would be to deport foreign criminals and give out heavier prison sentences in order to deter criminals in the first place. And Andy, you say, good morning, not long now before they really push to legalise drugs. They'll say it's to free up prison places and raise taxes.
Another one on that football one, Deborah Doyle, she says, Ben Leo, you are right when you say that men's football and women's football are very different. If that were true, there should be no objection to a team of trans women competing against a team of women. No, that's not the point. It's not... The reason why they're different in that respect is through strength, but the game itself is the same. But you wouldn't put a featherweight with a heavyweight, so you're matching abilities, but the sport is exactly the same. There's no difference. That's what I think anyway.
Right, keep them coming in. gbnews.com/your say. We'll try and get some more out before the end of the show.
Right, we have some breaking news to bring you. Card payments at a major high street shop like shops like Asda, Sainsbury's and also petrol stations across the UK appear to have crashed this morning. Let us know if it's impacted you. gbnews.com/your say.
Hopefully people have some cash on them. I know it's a rarity these days, but it's at times like these, we saw it a few months ago, having a bit of cash on you, a couple of quid, nice little wad in your wallet, doesn't do much harm, especially when the tech goes down. Anyway, moving on. King Charles and Queen Camilla are visiting Wales today to mark 25 years of the Welsh Parliament.
Now, the King will demonstrate his fluent Welsh a quarter of a century after he officially opened with his late mother.
And as well as reflecting on the past, he's also expected to look ahead to the challenges of the future, such as the climate debate. So joining us now is former BBC Royal correspondent Michael Cole. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
To see you in the studio with us.
Yes, it's a great...
down the line.
Indeed, it's a great pleasure to be here. Good morning, Ben. Good morning, Nana. Yeah, a very, very big day down in Cardiff. Of course, nothing particularly new for the Prince of Wales, as he was for 64 years. The King was the Prince of Wales. And, of course, before his investiture in 1969, he spent a whole term at the University of Wales in Aberystwyth learning how to speak Welsh, which he exercised during the ceremony at Carnarvon Castle when he was invested as the Prince of Wales. 25 years of devolution in Wales, a qualified success, a crisis at the moment down at the Tata Steelworks in Port Talbot. That is very much in the in tray of the new Labour government and has to be dealt with very urgently, I would suggest. The King, of course, will say, I think, that Wales had a very special place in the heart of his mother, which is true. She took a great interest in the country when she was there, the Principality. And he, of course, bought a house down in West Wales in Carmarthenshire. But what is interesting is that when he had the investiture in 1969, I remember it very, very clearly because it was very contentious. And a colleague of mine at the BBC went up to him just beforehand, and there had been demonstrations, there had been small bombs going off, and said to the Prince of Wales, "Are you worried about security, sir?" He said, "I haven't seen anybody here who's not secure," which I thought was quite good. And, of course, the whole ceremony in 1969 was a complete cod. It was a farrago of real nonsense. It was invented in 1911 when the Prince of Wales, who became the Duke of Windsor eventually, he was invested. And he was invested because David Lloyd George was the local MP and he wanted to give a good show for his constituents down in North Wales. So they invented this ceremony. And after the ceremony, the Prince of Wales took the sword, he took the regalia with him, and they were all lost. So when Prince Charles had to be invested, they had to do it all again, make him a new crown, make him new robes and everything. Of course, the new Prince and Princess of Wales are William and Kate. And what has been hinted at to us is that there won't be a ceremony, or it'll be a very, very restricted ceremony for when Prince William is invested formally as Prince of Wales. So an interesting history. They remain very popular in Wales. Whether devolution remains popular, I'm not so sure. Every now and then we have elections and it changes from Plaid Cymru to Labour, which is there at the moment.
But we will see. Now, I want to talk about Harry, Prince Harry, because, of course, today the Pat Tillman Award will be given to him. Apparently, there's a petition, though, and Pat Tillman's mother, who Pat Tillman was, of course, a sports player, an NFL footballer, went to fight in Afghanistan, was killed by friendly fire, and an award was created in his honour. They are planning to give it to Prince Harry, but his mother, Pat Tillman's mother, is not happy.
She is not. Big night in Los Angeles if Prince Harry comes forward to accept this Pat Tillman Award. Now, Pat Tillman was a American professional footballer. He turned down a £3 million contract with the Arizona Cardinals to join up in the American Army after 9/11. He joined the Rangers, which is roughly equivalent to the Marine Commandos here, and he was killed in Afghanistan in 2004, aged 27. Tragically, he was killed by friendly fire, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he was a genuine American war hero. He got the Silver Star and the Purple Heart. And his mother, Mary, doesn't want Prince Harry to receive this award in her son's name. And 68,000 people, the last time I looked, have signed a petition. It's 72,000. You bring me up to date. GB News is always on that. Got its thumb on the
Will he accept it, Michael?
Well,
pressure.
Listen, if he was taking PR advice from me, he would discreetly and politely decline the award, or he would not go in person to collect it. But there is a complication because the MC, the introducer, the host of the evening, is Serena Williams. And, of course, we all know that she's a big pal of Meghan Markle. So whether he'll be able to duck this out... Interestingly, Admiral Lord West, the former Royal Navy commander, he echoed the sentiments I expressed on this very channel, saying that it would be much better if he... discretion being the better part of valour, that he didn't go forward, because it is controversial, and I think we must respect what Mrs. Mary Tillman says, and she says she wants it to go to somebody much more humble, not somebody privileged, not somebody controversial and very divisive. And, you know, in America, they don't like what Prince Harry did. They don't like him being disrespectful to the late Queen and the royal family. They respected the late Queen very much. And, of course, they see, quite rightly, the King is our commander-in-chief as well as being the monarch. And they feel that what Prince Harry has done by going into self-imposed exile when he didn't have to do in 2020, and the things he said about the Princess of Wales and indeed about the King himself in books and in television programmes, all of that hasn't sat very easily with the Americans.
Well, the award is given particularly for his work with Invictus. We shouldn't forget that Harry, of course, served our country as well. But as you said, the mother of this late soldier...
Ben, I respect him for his 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. I respect him for setting up Invictus. It's a brilliant idea. It's a wonderful concept. But they were all pre-Meghan.
Yes.
That's when he was the happy prince. That's when he was doing his job. And quite frankly, I'm quite sure he misses that role. He's been stripped of his honours and his titles and his ranks within the British Armed Forces, and that will have hurt him a lot.
Well, you can cancel yourself out by doing things that are, you know, unsavoury, and a lot of people would say that the Oprah interview and all Spare and all the other stuff, it cannot be forgotten. Now, what about the Prince of Wales, Prince William? Now, he still believes he can end homelessness. He's got this project that he started, Homewards. It started last year. This now marks 1 year of that project. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, he's not a new boy at this, Nana. You'll know that. His mother, and I remember going with them, she took those boys when they were young, not even teenagers, to Centrepoint and other charities, homeless shelters in London. She wanted to take them out of the privileged palace bubble they lived in and showed them the other side of life. And that stayed with him. Now, ambition is always a good thing. Prince William says he thinks he can end homelessness. Well, we hope that he can. And he's made good progress in this first year. They've provided 100 new homes. They've got a donation of £1 million that's going to give them home starter kits. And more importantly, a very progressive coffee chain has offered 500 jobs, because I would have thought that the key to this is people getting jobs. And they're going to cite a wonderful case of a young girl who was homeless at the age of 9 when her father died and her mother was in difficulties. And she went through this homelessness selling copies of the magazine. And she has ended up as head of the fire service with a PhD degree of family life. And she's going to be a new ambassador for this Homewards charity and initiative. Of course, we wish Prince William well in this. We wish him well. It's a tremendous problem, but as he says, it's a problem for society.
Yeah, Michael Cole, thank you so much. You look amazing. I can't believe it. Michael is 81. He's the same age as Joe Biden.
I am the same age as the president.
Exactly. So
I am available, by the way.
Exactly. So this is... So I don't think the people who are in their 80s shouldn't be... you could easily lead America. Michael Cole.
A bit more compos mentis.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you.
Coming up next, why are middle-aged men being lured to yoga classes?
I love yoga.
Don't look at me. The answer may surprise you. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Back in a tick.
I'm curious.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Isabel Webster. Thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Question is,
Should our museums stay free for everyone and anyone, or should we be charging our tourists?
So many of the artefacts are from around the world, stolen actually. I think it's almost to add insult to injury to ask people to pay to see the artefacts that were taken without their permission. One of the things that the museum set itself up for is a kind of World Heritage where you can see the stuff they took from your country free of charge, because the British state's willing to do that. Is one of the reasons why we hold on to many of the artefacts from around the world instead of giving them back.
I mean, that's a noble argument, Wayman, but none of the other countries in the world that also contain artefacts from all over the world indulge in that, do they? We still have to pay to see anything that's come from the UK that might be overseas?
No, but the absolute truth is that we've stolen a lot more over many more years than anybody else, because we're a very, very, we had a very, very big empire, and during that time, taking things from other countries without their permission.
And I think our wonderful country, the United Kingdom, is the cradle of modern civilization, not of the ancient world, but of the modern world. You know, for centuries, we've contributed things to the world, which has spread out around the world, and the influence that we've put upon countries around the globe has been massively significant. I think it's a privilege for people to be able to come to this country and track the history of our country through our museums. I can't understand why they've ever been free. The upkeep of museums runs into hundreds of millions of pounds a year. Somebody's got to maintain them and keep them good. Somebody's got to go around the world and collect the artifacts which are in our museums. And I've always had the adage in life, if something is free, it's probably not worth having.
The People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. 11:22. Ben and Anna with you on Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News, in for Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
All right, just to recap the breaking news, if you're struggling to pay for your shopping or petrol this morning, you're not alone. Card payments at major high street shops like Asda, Sainsbury's and petrol stations across the UK appear to have crashed this morning. So let us know if that has impacted you. gbnews.com/your say.
Yeah, just briefly, Christopher, you've written on your say, I was in Tesco in Worthing and had to pay £42 and luckily had cash on me, as all the systems are down on car payments. I keep saying it, cash is king. Technology is great, but don't remember, cash still exists, because when this kind of thing happens and you're caught short, you're in trouble.
Right, moving on, we're joined by broadcaster and journalist Carol Malone and also political commentator Jonathan Liss in the studio. Right, should we kick it off with Kemi Badenoch? She's accusing Suella Braverman of having a very public breakdown.
Do you know, I liked Kemi Badenoch into this. This has really put me off her, because I think this happened in the very first meeting of Rishi Sunak's new shadow cabinet, and somehow miraculously got leaked where Badenoch said that Suella had this very public nervous breakdown. And I think it's really shocking on two levels. One, because what if she has had some sort of problem? I don't think she has. Suella's completely denied it. But what if she had some sort of breakdown? That's not the kind of thing anyone does to another person if they have a mental health issue. But secondly, to me, it's clear it's transparent what it's all about. There's a new poll came out which shows that Suella is much more popular with the Tory grassroots than Badenoch is. So she's trying to talk her down to the new cabinet. And I just think it's really bad that one woman on another, it's hard enough for women in politics as it is, but for one woman to be slagging another and saying she's having a nervous breakdown, I think it's really bad.
Do you think it's not a more Tory infighting? I mean, it's just more of the same, Jonathan?
I mean,
This does not look like a party that has taken stock of its worst defeat in history and is preparing the ground to be a fruitful opposition and potential new government. This is a party that is focused on settling old scores, and that is one of the main reasons why the electorate has just rejected them, because they were tired of the divisions, they were tired of the self-interest that was being put ahead of the country every single time. Badenoch famously can pick a fight in an empty room. She's obviously a very serious politician.
That's a bit unfair. I mean, what are you basing that on?
A lot of people say that.
What is your reasoning for saying that?
She has a very combative style, which not all politicians have.
You could say that about Suella Braverman as well.
Suella Braverman, she does have it, but I say this is a complete opponent of Braverman, but Braverman does have a kind of warmth to her. Sometimes, you know, she can crack out a smile, she can kind of seem jokey, friendly. Badenoch has no warmth that I've seen.
But she is tough, though, and I think it's very important. You know, I think she has a strength. I think she's got guts. I mean, she took on David Tennant the other week, who had a go at her and said she should disappear. And she took her on over that. She's not scared of things. And I also think she's done an enormous amount for women's rights. She calls out all the transgressions against women's rights all of the time, and I think that's a really important thing. But I'd like to see those two getting together rather than scrapping with each other.
I think you're right. Sorry.
I was going to say I don't think that will ever happen. Hearing what I've heard about Badenoch and Braverman's relationship.
Really, I haven't heard that at all.
But look, the point is that Braverman thinks that you're right, Braverman is popular with the Tory grassroots, but she's never going to get the final two candidates because the party is not behind her, and she...
when you say the party, do you mean the members?
The parliamentary party.
Right. Well, that's the problem. That's the problem with the Tories. The members elect a leader which is then scuppered by the Wets and the One Nation.
But they're not going to elect her because the party, you have to have a leader. You have to have a leader who has the party behind them. Yes. You can't just have a leader who's supported by the membership and not their own party in Parliament.
Well, I think that was the problem, though, and this is why a lot of people were turned off from the Conservative Party, because they, as members, were not supporting Rishi Sunak. In fact, they supported Boris Johnson. And then the Tory actual parliamentary party then decided they're not going to listen to their own members. And if they do this again and again, they'll have literally no supporters, because why would you support a party that doesn't listen to you?
But, Nana, a party membership is not the country by definition. A party.
But it's the party.
It's the most devoted people in the voters who support the party.
The membership reflects people in the country as well, I think. But it's the Wets and the One Nations, as you've just said, that don't.
They are the party, the parliamentary party, the majority of it are at complete odds with the members, and that is not democratic. That is not the way the Conservative Party has been run in times of past. And the fact that it was even mooted in recent weeks that they should scrap the membership choosing the next leader just goes to show what a complete clown show it is.
They're toast.
You should scrap that. I think a big mistake the Tories made, one of many, was to replace the leader twice without an election. And so you had a very undemocratic system where, like 80,000 people, 100,000 people were choosing the next Prime Minister.
Well, exactly. So you agree with us? They should listen to their members.
Well, that's a question about getting the parliamentary
party. You are the rumours about Labour scrapping within itself already, aren't you? Yeah. Do you not think Starmer would be replaced? I do.
Do you think? Well,
the thing about Labour, Carol, is that the Tories, the people who commit regicide, Labour actually very rarely gets rid of its leader.
Oh, I think we have yet to see. We have yet to see whether Labour commit to anything. Right. Right. Let's talk water bills. Now they're set to rise by £19 a year from April. Now, this is in England and Wales. The industry regulator Ofwat has come out with this, although this will put more pressure on households and things like that. Jonathan Liss, where do you stand with this?
I think it's a complete outrage. I remember sort of 2 years ago, I live in London, Thames Water is my provider. We didn't have water for 48 hours. During the hottest day of the year. And I had to go and find... There was no information provided. Had to go outside and find some people who were sort of giving out some bottles of water. It's completely outrageous. And the thing is that we have the worst of all worlds. We have a privatised system, but no choice. Because I cannot change... None of us can change our providers if we're not satisfied with the water provision. So with gas and electricity, at least have the choice to change provision. You don't with water. We should nationalise the whole thing.
So this price hike is to pay for the sewage crisis.
It is astonishing that, I think the boss of Thames Water the other day was defending his massive bonus, and the idea that the boss and the board can still get these multi-million-pound bonuses and not put that into changing the supply. They've had years to upgrade the system, to make the system better, and they haven't. And the result of that is they've pumped raw sewage into our water, and they want us to pay for cleaning that up. It's astonishing. 70% hike on some of these bills. It is beyond belief that we have to pay this much for dirty water.
Well, they have a revolving door, haven't they, with Ofwat and the heads of these companies as well. So the person who works at Ofwat then goes to head up a water company and vice versa, so they all know how to get out of the rules.
Part of the problem is, Nana, that a lot of these companies aren't British. They're not even based in this country. And in other countries, they actually, all these companies are on a contract, and if they move away from the terms of their contract, it's taken away and given to somebody else. I don't know why we're not doing that.
Yeah, and also we have a system of nationalisation in this country where we just give our utilities to other governments, not our own. That's ridiculous. These companies have loaded on debt to pay dividends to their shareholders, not in the interests of the public, but in their shareholders. That makes no sense at all.
Now, I want to ask you about yoga for middle-aged men. Anyone heard this story?
Yes.
Anyone got that story?
Yeah, we read this.
Yes,
yeah.
this is the... Yeah, do you want me or you?
Yes, Carol Miller.
OK, so... This is men are going to yoga classes, and the thing to get them there, the incentive, is they can have a pint of beer after they've done a move called the downward dog. Now, to me, the two things don't make sense. No. If you're mad on yoga, you're not a big beer drinker. The two don't go together. But this bloke, it's quite a good gimmick, he's called Mad Jordan, he makes them do a couple of moves, and then he gives them a pint of beer. And he's opening up these classes all over the country. I suspect they'll fall flat on their faces, because I think really yoga...
Because they'll be drunk?
No, well, that as well. But I just think really yoga enthusiasts will think this is an aberration. They won't want this to be happening.
I do yoga. I love my Ashtanga gymnastic and yoga type thing.
And do you have
if there was a glass of wine afterwards or something,
would you?
I think I might hang out at the club for a little champagne or some sparkling wine or something like that.
You'd want to get showered and dressed first, though, wouldn't you, before you have it, like, in the thing?
No, you might do, you might not, but I think that would tempt me to the class tonight. Glass, you get a little glass of
socialisation as well.
Probably be up for that.
I'm with you, Carol. I don't get the mixture of sport and booze. It's kind of like an oxymoron.
One's supposed to get rid of the other.
Well done.
Yes.
Carol Malone, Jonathan Liff, thank you very much. Right, it's time now for your news headlines with Tamsin Roberts.
Nana, thank you. Here are the headlines at 11:31. A vigil is taking place for the 3 women killed in a crossbow attack in Hertfordshire. Well, for those watching on television, these are live pictures from St James's Church in Bushey, where a service is currently being held to support the local community. The victims, who were the wife and 2 daughters of BBC racing commentator John Hunt, were attacked at their home in Bushey. Carol Hunt was 61, while Hannah and Louise were 28 and 25. A major police manhunt for 26-year-old suspect Carl Clifford ended when he was found injured near a cemetery in North London. He was discovered with injuries in Lavender Hill Cemetery in Enfield and then taken to hospital. Manager Gareth Southgate says his team are ready to make history after reaching the final of Euro 2024. A stunning stoppage-time goal from substitute Ollie Watkins secured a 2-1 victory over the Netherlands in dramatic fashion. The 3 Lions will now face Spain on Sunday with the hope of being crowned European champions. President Biden has indicated he supports closer defence ties between the UK and Europe. In his first head-to-head meeting with the Prime Minister at the White House, Joe Biden told Sir Keir Starmer he sees the UK as the cornerstone of the transatlantic alliance. The Prime Minister described the visit as an opportunity to recommit to NATO and the special relationship. Sir Keir has said he wants a new UK-EU security pact, whilst also working closer on defence with key allies. The government is set to launch what it calls a warts-and-all independent investigation into the performance of the NHS. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says the report aims to diagnose the problem so the government can write the prescription. The investigation will be led by former Health Minister Lord Darzi, who's been asked to tell hard truths. Mr Streeting says the review will provide patients, staff and himself with a full and frank assessment. The UK economy grew by 0.4% in May. That's quicker than expected. The latest data from the Office for National Statistics comes as more shoppers returned to high streets and construction work recovered. It came after no growth was recorded in April when damp weather hit consumer spending. May's stronger than expected performance puts the economy on track to surpass the Bank of England's projection of 0.5% growth for the second quarter. Well, those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tamsin Roberts. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.2878 and 1.1869 euros. The price of gold is £1,850.57, and the FTSE 100's at 8,224 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Tamsin. Right, up at noon. Good afternoon, Britain with Tom and Emily. Hello, what's coming up?
Nana, you'll like this one. Net zero madness from the new Labour government. Ed Miliband. An immediate ban on all new oil drilling in the North Sea.
Oh, dear.
What does this mean for the Scottish economy, the people of Aberdeen in particular? Is this net zero ideology gone mad? This could have huge consequences. There are businesses who have been putting millions into preparing these bids to try and dig oil, drill oil, and now it could all be gone.
Well, net zero.
Well, there were dozens of licence applications that were being assessed by civil servants. Ed Miliband has this week told them to down tools, not look at any of these new applications and not take in any more oil. Now, this is, in fairness, in the Labour Party manifesto, page 52, if anyone's interested. It says, we will not issue new licences to explore new fields. They will only accelerate the worsening climate crisis. In addition, we'll not grant new coal licences and ban fracking for good. The irony here, of course, is that Britain imports a lot of fracked gas from the United States of America. Yeah. So instead of extracting our own gas here, what we're going to be doing is sending a hell of a lot of money over to the United States to have theirs.
Does he think these companies do this for fun?
We need to
Does he not understand there's demand?
We need to play that clip on Question Time with you, Tom Harwood, because I thought that was incredible.
On exactly this?
On exactly this. I listened to it only the other day, actually.
It's funny, of the times that I've been on that show, this is the one that everyone references, because it's interesting. All of these, and it's something that I think is perhaps most pernicious when it comes to the Green Party, because you'd think the Green Party might be against, OK, fine, they're against oil and gas, but surely they're in favour of wind farms and solar farms. But no, example after example of local Green councillors, you'll find that they've been opposing solar farms because they're on green fields. They're opposing the infrastructure required for wind farms because they don't want pylons on the countryside. And it's like, well, pick one. Either you're going to have lots of pylons and net zero, or you're not going to have net zero. You can't have neither. You can't have both.
Politically, this is going to be quite dramatic.
The Scottish will not be happy.
Because the unions aren't going to be happy. There's a lot of union people who aren't behind this net zero stuff. They want those jobs in Scotland and in the north of England. This could really kick off and legal action against the government. Imagine these businesses suing the government because of this.
Well, Emily, when Ed Miliband was appointed to Cabinet, some far-left commentators were saying they shed a tear at his appointment.
Yes.
Not naming names, but there we go.
Reminds us of one of those creature comforts. Remember those? It's nice and warm. And Ed Miliband. You know, it's probably before.
Comedy character, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. They were. Well, listen, all that and more at midday. Up next, we're keeping a close eye on the Welsh Parliament, where the King and Queen are arriving to mark 25 years of devolution. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Following the gloomy and wet weather we've seen so far this week, well, it's going to stay largely cloudy today with some showery rain. But for many, it's going to be drier and brighter compared with the last few days. Certainly some brightness coming through for Western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers here, but otherwise largely fine. The remnants of the wet weather we've seen during recent days just clearing northeast Scotland through the morning, and brighter skies for the south, where it's going to be relatively warm, 23 or 22 Celsius. But in between this zone of cloud just sticking about for parts of East and North Wales, North Midlands, Northern England, showers or longer spells of rain at times. Some sharp showers actually later in the day coming through for the Midlands and East Wales. But for Scotland at least, it is cheering up compared with recent weather. The best of the sunshine, the north and the west of Scotland. 15, 16 Celsius, not particularly hot, but nevertheless feeling pleasant enough in the sun out of the breeze. Northern Ireland likewise, 1 or 2 light showers, otherwise largely fine. But we've got these sharp showers across the Midlands into East Wales that one needs to keep an eye on. They could be fairly heavy and hit around the time of the rush hour. In the far south, largely dry and a clear evening to come before this zone of cloud and outbreaks of rain moves up from the continent and just spills into the south coast by the end of the day. That's going to continue overnight. So elsewhere, it's turning drier with some clear spells. It's going to be a fresher night compared with recent nights in the south, but temperatures still at 13 or 14 Celsius at the start of Friday. Friday starts off with a lot of fine weather. Actually, the best of the sunshine this time will be across central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, for example. But we'll see a lot of cloud in the south and outbreaks of rain, particularly towards the southeast, and some sharp showers developing towards the far southwest. Otherwise, for many, it is a drier and brighter day. It's not going to feel particularly warm. Temperatures in the high teens.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
It's 41 minutes after 11 o'clock. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Now, ahead of our live coverage of the 12th of July celebrations, Doogie Beattie has been following the historical route of those that left Northern Ireland and headed for the New World.
Worcester lies about 40 miles west of Boston. It's known as the heart of the Commonwealth. But back in the 1700s, it was no more than a frontiers village.
So you would have to travel from Boston down the Indian Path, which is, Indian Paths were only about this wide. They were only a foot wide. They weren't very large. You would be single file. Horseback, you would be single file. There was not enough room for a stagecoach.
The unannounced arrival of the Scots-Irish was scorned upon by the establishment, and as a result, they were split into 3 groups. Among those in the Worcester placement was the Young family. The oldest was 95, and he had brought the first seed potatoes to America, that at first was greeted with suspicion.
The Governor Shute was his name. He got really upset because he saw all these people arriving in Boston and he didn't know what to do. So he decided he was going to divide them into 3 groups and send them to 3 different places to reinforce populations because of the Indian attacks. So he sent 200 people to Maine, 200 people to Londonderry, New Hampshire, and 200 people to Worcester. When they get here in Worcester, the people that were already here, about 200 of them, and they were upset because they didn't like these people because they were different and they had different clothing, they spoke different, but they had gifts of the potato and the spinning wheel, and the Congregationalists were also afraid of that potato and they threw it away. So it took a couple of seasons before they realized that they could eat the potato. They were trying to eat the tubers and the leaves. which didn't work out right. You know, that's not good. Poisonous. So, eventually they figured out how to eat the potato, and it became a very sustainable fruit or vegetable in New England, and a lot of potato farms are in Maine.
The hostilities towards the families in Worcester would see them being forced to move on, and they would rejoin their countrymen further north.
The people in Worcester tried to drive the Scots out of here. Get out of my town. It was pretty much, they burned their church down, and they did whatever they could to drive them away, and a lot of them founded Pelham and Rutland and Colebrook Springs to the west of us, and that's where the potato farms are in Massachusetts.
Right, so make sure you tune in tomorrow for that special coverage with Dougie Beattie and Arlene Foster here on Britain's Newsroom.
Right, so in breaking news now, the spire of the Gothic cathedral of the French city of Rouen in Normandy has caught fire. The local prefect, a state official, said the cathedral had been evacuated and emergency services were on the scene, and a security cordon is now in place around the building.
Right, well, we'll keep you updated on that. Up next, we're crossing over to England's most patriotic estate to celebrate the Three Lions' success in the Euros. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
The Royal Academy's annual exhibition has returned for the 256th time to brighten the summer holidays. It's the world's oldest open submission exhibition. Anyone can enter work to be considered for inclusion. I'm joined now by art critic J.J. Charlesworth for his verdict. What is your verdict?
My verdict is you should go and see it. You are confronted with many things of varying quality, selected by artists, and you very much, instead of being given something to you that's supposed to be good, you have to make your own decision.
I went along yesterday, and I personally did see some pictures on the wall that I thought were absolutely stunning. I'm going to mention Peter Ucker, which I think is a remark. And now these are the two by Ben Jonson, Grundtvig 1, and we've got one coming out of Berlin Pool. I think that's an absolutely stunning piece of work. And then Claire Douglas should be up. Here we are, Claire Douglas.
Yes.
Souvenir from the Anthropocene.
Yeah.
That last one, actually, a very witty painting.
A piece like that was really interesting. I think it caught a lot of people's eyes because it had very kind of humorous, slightly bleak take on post-Brexit Britain. It's set in this fictitious world of Brummington, which is a sort of loose satire on Birmingham. I thought it was a bit mean.
I think we had maybe Black Lives Matter. We had Boris Johnson. I think our own Jacob Rees-Mogg made his way into the painting.
Yeah, so there's definitely a slant, a political slant, on the part of the artist. But even that said, I thought it was an interesting and enjoyable work, even though maybe you don't agree with the artist on what they're trying to say. And I think that actually made for an interesting moment because you're seeing that people are disagreeing, right? Both through the artwork and in front of artworks.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said stump.
You made my argument for me.
What
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And there we are. The Three Lions roared to victory last night as super sub Ollie Watkins scored that sensational 90th minute winner against the Netherlands.
Now, this takes England to the finals of the Euros. They'll be playing Spain. Is it finally coming home?
Let's cross live to the Kirby estate in southeast London, where GB News reporter Theo Chikomba joins us. Theo, is it coming home?
I think everyone here is very confident. If we can just quickly have a look around where we are. We're at the Kirby estate in southeast London. All these England flags. This is the only place, I think, in southeast London where you can find many people supporting England. But it was last night Ollie Watkins scored that goal in 90 minutes. And lots of people are thinking, oh, we're going to have one of those games where it goes to extra time, potentially penalties, but Ollie Watkins saved the day. The Aston Villa player hasn't had many minutes on the pitch, but Harry Kane did score that penalty earlier on in the game where we were thinking, oh, what is it looking like, particularly that early goal from the Netherlands. But they take on Spain. England takes on Spain this weekend on Sunday for a huge game. And lots of people we've been speaking to here are excited. Many people saying it's coming home. So we'll be spending most of the day here speaking to fans who live in this area, looking forward to that game. There have been questions about Gareth Southgate. Many people saying after this competition he shouldn't be in the job because it's been boring. That's what a lot of people have been saying. But some people have been quite positive about him today, actually, I have to say, saying, actually, well, he's turned it around. So they're hoping that that same performance remains on Sunday. So, yeah, just a few days left now, and I'm sure the England team will be preparing for that.
Theo, it looks like Emily Thornberry's nightmare around there. Is it Millwall Central?
Well, I have to be honest, I haven't seen any Millwall flags as in for the team, but definitely lots of people here who support England. There's a spot of flags here and there which aren't England flags, but I'd say 99% of the flags here are definitely supporting England.
Thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. That is Theo Chikomba. He'll keep you updated on that. Now, lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts. Joanne Ainsworth, she messaged in. She says, wind turbines, lifespan is 25 years. Then what do we do with them? They don't biodegrade. This is all this eco stuff that's supposedly helping the environment, but is a complete hindrance.
Scotland felling, as I said to Donica McCarthy earlier, felling 14 million trees to make way for wind farms.
It's madness. Now, Paul Nardone, he says, banning oil and gas drilling is crazy. How will Starmer power the Army, Navy and Air Force? He boasts of his plans to defend Ukraine, wind turbines, solar farms or Saudi and Russian oil.
Ray, good morning. You say, just a thought, all the emergency backup generators in hospitals, etc. are diesel-driven. What happens when the net zero lot get their way and there's a power cut? Do we swap the electricity for a diesel generator? Oh, no, we can't. The power's off.
Well, they did that in COP27, didn't they? They tried to do everything by electric vehicle, but then, of course, they couldn't generate the electricity, so they had to bring in a diesel generator to power, to create the electric for the vehicles. I mean, it was absurd. Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, that's how we go with these things. And Kathy Shepherd says, better get ready for blackouts. I'm afraid. I just think it's madness. If you've got it, use it. Isn't that the idea of using what is in your backyard before you go elsewhere?
Yeah, well, as Tom Harwood, rightly pointed out, and as you alluded to, his appearance on Question Time, it's complete madness because you're banning the recuperation and the drilling of your own gas and then importing it from elsewhere for much more expense.
Exactly.
It's insane.
Right, back to the breaking news now. The spire of the Gothic Cathedral of the French city of Rouen in Normandy has caught fire.
Wow. A state official said that the cathedral had been evacuated and emergency services were on the scene. A security cordon is also around the building.
Now, the extent of the damage to Rouen, the cathedral, is unknown at this stage, but the local authorities say that there are no known victims currently. Right, let's have a quick look at some more of those emails that you've
I mean, it looks like that could really develop, that smoke coming out the top there. And, of course, that follows when was the Notre Dame fire?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Some years back.
You don't know the answer either. What are you asking me for?
Maybe the...
Very clever, darling, very clever. And then John, now we're talking about wind turbines and all those different forms of gas and electricity and so on and so forth. John Waffle says, what if the wind stops blowing due to climate change? Well, that's true, aren't they? They're massive as well. If there's a hurricane or tornado or something, they'll be blowing in the air. They'll be blowing out from where they are.
Yeah, I've said before, I really hope we change path from this deranged march to net zero. I'm all for clean energy and so on. But anyway, up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Emily. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, see you soon.
Right, well, coming up on the show, Ed Miliband, the new Energy Secretary, has hit the ground running. He's ordered an immediate ban on new licences in the North Sea drilling for oil. Is this net zero madness or the first step to the green dream?
Plenty on that. Also, live events. We'll keep watching that cathedral. And the King is in Cardiff Bay for the Welsh Senedd anniversary. But also a reform reshuffle. Ben Habib has been pushed out as deputy leader of that party, and he doesn't appear to be happy about it. All that to come after your weather.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. It is going to be a drier day for many of us, but there is a risk of showers, particularly in central areas. We've still got low pressure not too far away from the UK. It's centred up to the north and east. We've still got the remnants of some rain from yesterday, but higher pressure is building in from the west. So that means for parts of Northern Ireland, much of northwest Scotland, actually it's going to be a much drier day today compared to yesterday, but we've got a northerly wind, so it's still a fairly cool feel. Also quite a lot of sunshine through much of the day across the south coast, but in between those areas, staying quite cloudy through the day with some drizzly rain on and off. And here temperatures will be suppressed, but in the south and the best of sunshine, we could see 24 degrees later on this afternoon. So pretty warm in any sunshine, but still that northerly wind through this evening. So a fairly warm and fine end to the day across southern areas, some sunshine, but I think for much of Wales into the Midlands and northern England, it's going to stay cloudy through this evening with that drizzly rain. Northern Ireland seeing a fine end to the day. The further north you go, the more exposed to that northerly wind you are, particularly across the eastern areas of Scotland. Temperatures in Aberdeen only 13 degrees this evening, so more of an autumnal feel out there. Now through tonight, it's going to stay fairly dry for most areas. In this central area, though, it will remain largely cloudy with a risk of some rain, but I think the rain will become much more restricted to parts of Wales and central areas of England by the end of the night. There's also a threat of some showers approaching from the near continent into the southeast by tomorrow morning as well. In any clear skies tonight, we've still got cool air, so we could be down as low as about 4 degrees for parts of Scotland, but for most areas, a fairly mild start with plenty of cloud around. And Friday will be a fairly dry day for most of us. There's still a lot of cloud around, so it's not going to be particularly warm, and also there's a risk of showers, mainly across the south coast. It's particularly in the southwest where we could see some torrential downpours, and with plenty of cloud around, temperatures at best into the high teens, possibly the low 20s.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Summer could be a scorcher, with your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. It's totally tax-free, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make with an extra £30,000 cash in your bank account? Take your family on the ultimate holiday, buy that treat that's always seemed out of reach, or just put it in the bank for a later date. However you'd spend it, make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE